This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone. What a welcome back to Djuma Game Reserve. We are at the dam cam where a lot of action has been happening, and here it looks like we have found the Talamati Pride. I think they have snacked on the wildebeest last night, but I will come to that because it's all very exciting here. And of course, it's that time of the morning for your live safari through the African bush. Welcome on board, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here on this grey, overcast, slightly drizzly morning. And of course, the Scottish accent will tell you that, yes, Lauren is back. No one else has an accent like me. So I am Lauren, and we do have Johan on camera today. We've came to the dam cam. Apparently there was a lot of action here last night. And here's the Talamatis right at the dam cam. Now there's some hyenas running around, but unfortunately they're not staying still enough, and I believe they could potentially not be members of the Djuma clan, which is fascinating because right now we're in the heart of the Djuma clan territory. So it's not exactly cold. It's a lovely 21 degrees Celsius, 70 degrees Fahrenheit today, and of course this is your live... Oh, they're listening to something. I wonder if the rest of the pride are there. We haven't done a body count yet. We just drove into them. But yes, this is your live safari, so please do talk to us. It's very important. All of us from all locations across Africa, we want to hear you. So, kids, if you're watching, please do talk to us. We prefer you over the adults. But you send your questions in via email, and that's kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Now, for the adults, we do like you too. You send your questions in using that hashtag WildEarth @FC on the YouTube chat, or of course go to wildearth.tv/explorers. That is my lovely Game Drive radio. I have to say I did not miss the Game Drive radio. So apparently a wildebeest calf, as far as we know, did not make it last night, which is extremely sad. I don't quite know what happened, but I believe it was a natural death, and the hyenas came. Now, after that, we have very, very full-bellied Talamati pride. I think it's the Talamatis. Yeah, we've got two lions coming over here. I'm not sure if you... Oh, you do get a view of them, Johan. So I think it's a whole pride, and they've been in the drainage. Now, we saw the wildebeests up on quarantine, and there was only 2 calves, I'm afraid. I don't know if 2 didn't make it. Very alert. Now, I was racing to the hyena den. I want to catch up with the Djuma clanners. So I don't know whether to just leave these lions for a bit. I don't think they're going to go too far. Race round to the den, see if anyone is at the den. Sorry, I didn't catch that name there, but someone is saying what a lovely way to start the drive. I know. Surprising. I came here hoping to see hyenas. And of course we have a pride of lions. But I think that's what I will do, race round to the den. I believe there's a new cub. It was seen on the dam cam being transported by June's mouth. And I knew it. I knew June was pregnant. I remember we had that drive where I could see really prominent mammary glands just popping out. And I knew June was pregnant, and I'm so proud of her. Because she lost Swana. She now has Sutu, but Sutu's old enough now. Sutu's around 2. So she's obviously given birth to another litter. I know Trishala worked really, really hard, but I'm also desperate to spend time there and see if we see a little cub pop his head out. The Djuma clan is absolutely thriving. I'm still a little bit suspicious about Intima as well. Now, Johan, you know what I think I'm going to do? Just go forward a little bit and see if we can do a body count, because I have no idea how many lions are actually here. It's all very wet and slushy. Hello. Good morning. Now, they're all looking this way, so I'm not going to block their view. I just want to see 1, 2, 3, 4, at least here. Need to drive into this tree. Can you work with this? We have our rain roof on. It's never an easy task trying to navigate the rain roof. Okay, I can count 6. And yes, you've got that sort of young male that I don't think Johan will be able to see, with the darker mane coming through, the sort of mini mane, the teenage mane. So it's the Talamati Pride. Now you can't see from here, but one of them actually had a very full belly, so I don't know if they picked up on the wildebeest remains or if there's another kill carcass around, and that's why the hyenas are still staying around. There's also a possibility for that reason the den might not be active. Johan, are you able to get this tree over here? There's a bird looking very strange at the top of this tree. I'm just going to give you a quick view of this. Up here. There we go. I am not entirely sure what this bird is doing, but we're going to figure it out. And while we do that, we're going to send you off to another location.
Good morning, everybody, and very warm welcome to And Beyond Ngala. We are here in one of the central parts of the reserve, and we've just seen 2 really, really small wildebeest calves who are being hidden by that big bull. So you might just see those golden legs underneath them there. There they are. Just be able to see them. And so hopefully that bull's going to move away. But my name is Eric. I am back here on camera, and BK is behind camera. It feels really, really good to be back. I've been away for about a month, so it's been really cool to drive around the reserve and see what the reserve has changed and what it's looking like after a month of being away. And so I'm very excited to be here for the next week. And what a cool start to see. I mean, it's the first wildebeest calves that I've seen for the season, and look at how small that one is, and just look at that umbilical cord, how floppy it is. It's still moving as that wildebeest is walking, and so it is still incredibly young. I mean, I'm not entirely sure how old it is, but it's probably only a day or 2 old by the looks of things. And it's such an amazing color that they are born with, that bright golden coat. And see how protective the mother is. She's not letting it out of its sight. I mean, I think this is one of the reasons why they've come into this area. Look how open it is, very short grass. And so if there were a predator around moving through this area, hopefully these wildebeest will be able to spot it and be able to react accordingly. And still see it. That one in the front in particular, see how it's walking. I mean, it doesn't look so stable on its legs. And there's the other one at the back there. That one's deciding to have a quick little rest. For me, one of the most incredible things is to watch these wildebeest. And when I was doing my time at Pinda about 2 or 3 years ago, I was lucky enough to watch 3 wildebeest give birth within about 20 minutes. And the fastest calf to stand up took 3.5 minutes, and the slowest one took around about 7 minutes or so. So they get up incredibly quickly, and within about 20 minutes of us watching them, all 3 of them were basically running around. They'd all had a big drink from their mothers. So it's incredible how they can adapt and stand up so quickly.
How special is that little baby wildebeest? Welcome to and beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve, where we've also got a little baby animal, a little monkey in our case. And looking around, there's actually a whole bunch of little vervet monkeys in the top of this fever tree. Some that are really small, some that are a little bit older, a couple of adolescents, and one or two adults keeping watch over everything as well. Look at how agile they are, moving around through the tops of this tree. And of course, with this being a thorn tree, a fever tree, it's got thorns on it. Just imagine how nimble and agile these little monkeys have to be to avoid getting those thorns into their feet and hands. My name is Damon, and behind the camera this morning we've got Glenn. And we're back in the southern plains of Beyond Phinda this morning. Those of you that watched last night, you'll remember that we spent a bit of time with that lioness and her two youngsters, and we could see that she was looking pretty skinny. So I think there's a good chance that she's been hunting through the night. So we're going to try and see if we can't maybe find her this morning. Just in case she has killed something, or if maybe she is still hunting. If you look behind me, the sky is pretty grey. It's nice and cool this morning. Unbelievable compared to the last few days where it's been sweltering. And so with that in mind, there's a good chance that if she hasn't caught anything just yet, she's going to be moving until it gets, or until a little bit later in the morning. So I think a really good opportunity for us to try and film some lions moving around, maybe hunting, or if they've caught something, feeding. But back to these monkeys, it looks like there's a couple more individuals from the troop that have joined these youngsters up in the tops of the fever trees. And I don't know if you can see on those branches, there are these little brown things that are hanging from the thinner branches, and those are all seed pods that the fever tree has produced. Oh, I don't know if you can see, Glenn, this monkey that's just over here. What it's doing, it's almost lying down on its belly and then licking the branch of the fever tree. And I don't know if any of you guys have seen what happens if you cut into the bark of a fever tree or any of the other trees, or any of the other Vocalias or Senegalias, trees formerly known as acacias. But they produce a gum that comes from the inside of the tree. So if you cut into the tree or the tree gets damaged, it produces this gum, and it's full of sugar and very nutritious. And so that's what that monkey was doing. Obviously found a bit of freshly seeped gum there, or sap, and it started to lick it up. Bit of sweetness to go down with the savory seed pods. And those little seed pods will be full of little seeds that those monkeys will be feeding on. Looks like there's still quite a couple of monkeys around, but they're being very hard to, they're playing very hard to get, hiding behind all the thorns. So Charla, you're asking how many different species of monkey we get here at Beyond Phinda. We just get the one species, just the vervet monkey, at least commonly, but we have had a record of another kind of monkey called a Samango monkey. And although they don't live here residently, like I said, there's just that one record. So I'm going to get the animal book out just to show you what it looks like, because it's quite a special monkey. It looks a little bit different to the vervet monkey. And like I said, it's not a resident here. If you travel maybe 25 kilometers in a straight line to the east towards the Indian Ocean, you find them quite commonly there. They're a specialist of the coastal forests. But yeah, so one obviously got a bit lost and wound up here at Ambiampinda. But there's the Samango monkey. It's also known as a Sykes monkey. There's a picture of it there. So see, it's got very dark arms and quite a dark grey body. And then look at its face and how different it is to the vervet monkeys we've been seeing. The vervet monkeys with that very characteristic black face with the lighter outline, whereas this monkey, it's much lighter. Also a bit of a heavier monkey. Apparently males weighing up to about 10 kilograms in comparison to the vervet, which is over here. See, there's the vervet monkey. See, with that very dark face and then the white eyebrow. Bit of a lighter color on its body. Let's just see what they say for a vervet monkey. Yeah, so a big male up to about 8 kilograms. So that Samango or Sykes monkey, quite a bit of a more thick-set, heavily built monkey. But yeah, it's getting quite tough to keep up with the monkeys now. They're moving around quite a lot in the canopy of those fever trees. So I think we're going to leave them. We're going to carry on heading out towards where that lioness, where we saw her and her cubs moving off into the dark last night. We'll go and check. There's a water hole in that area that I think might still be holding water and therefore attracting animals. And so maybe that lioness is headed in that direction to go look for some food. Of course, as we go, though, we'll be paying very careful attention to animals like these monkeys, because if they see these lions that we're looking for, they'll start to alarm call, making this like clicking, shouting sound. And that will then be an indication to us that there's a predator in the area, and we should then go and have a look there. So let's keep on heading down, and then we'll loop around, make our way towards that water, and keep a lookout for any alert-looking animals, listen out for any alarm calls, and have the odd glance down at the road to check for tracks. Let's keep on going. What is that? There's a lion! There's a lion! No ways! 3 lions! We've hardly moved! Can you believe it? Four lions! How's that, everybody? That's ridiculous! It looks like they're all lying down up on a little raised patch there. Taking in the cool breeze. Can you see how light they are and how they really stick out against the backdrop? And that's what I saw. I just saw that very pale underbelly. That is too cool. Look at that one there on the left. It looks like it's moving around a bit. It looks like that one that's sitting up. Can you see there's a bit of a mane around its neck? Looks like a sub-adult male. And those of you that were watching last night, remember we said that lioness might go and look for the rest of her pride, the other 2 lionesses, and then the 3 sub-adult males that make up the rest of the Biola pride. So I think these are the missing members. That is too awesome. I'm surprised the monkeys haven't seen them just yet. Glenn and I are going to try for a better view of these lions. While we do that, let's go across to Lauren, who's at the Hyena Den on Juma.
We just saw the cub. June's at the den suckling. It's very active. Lots of vocalizations. And we just saw the cub. Cub watch duties is now transferred onto Mama Lauren, and there's definitely a little one there. Hi, June. Now I think we're just going to have to wait. We raced here because on mornings like this, when it's grey and overcast and it's not warm, you'll tend to find the den a lot more active. It's when it gets Oh, that was her tail. Sorry, I'm keeping a really close eye on my monitor here. When it gets too hot, you find that the hyenas just make a shift in their sort of patterns, and they become a lot more nocturnal. Then they are nocturnal predators anyway, but normally you'll find they're gone by the time we get to the den because it's just too hot. Now, you find a lot of nocturnal predators, even the likes of your pangolin and your aardvark and swallow, they make a shift. Now, let's just keep a really close eye on June here, Johan, because that cub is just going to watch for any flash of a head. They're slightly nervous. Now, the lions are not too far away, remember? And June is really easy to recognise due to that left floppy ear. And how did she get that? She got that during the matriarchal takeover that happened in our camp. When Ribbon took over, June got seriously injured, and I'm wondering if I've got this wrong the entire time, which is possible. And maybe Corky's not at the bottom. She's definitely not at the top. But I wonder if June's at the very bottom now. Poor June. She was all, oh, incoming. You have someone incoming. Oh, this is Ribbon. Matriarch's coming. Excuse the rain, Paul. This is going to be interesting. Hello, Ribbon. Hello, darling. You're looking beautiful. You see that? Tail up, dominance. Wow. Andreas, you're great sighting. Yes. Listen to the vocalizations. Poor June. See that? She was worried there. Ribbon means no harm. This is Ribbon's den. She's a matriarch. She's just coming to check. We do have Heart over there as well, but I'm not sure if we can give you a view of Heart right now because I obviously want to focus on June. I have no idea how old this cub could be. Many of you sent me screenshots, thank you. But I really don't know. It's normally after 4 weeks that they bring their cubs to the communal den. But because we have Ngwazi, Shimbulu, Hearts too, and even Corky's daughter, could possibly mean that June left it a little bit later before bringing the cub here. Everyone wants to meet the cub. Swazi, is that you? Yes, it is. Hello, Swazi. Poor June. Swazi's a guy that's everyone's favourite, you know? Everybody loves Swazi. He's turning into a right young man now. He's losing the fluffy appearance of a youngster. And he's at the age now where he really could disperse. Now, we obviously hope he doesn't. But if he goes to the Elephant Plains clan, of course, we'll still see him again, I would imagine. But it's normal for a male to disperse from his natal clan. 97% of the time they will. It's all about genetics, avoiding inbreeding and finding a new pool of ladies. But it's not going to be easy. It's going to be extremely hard work for Swazi to prove himself in another clan. He'll be an immigrant male and he'll be right at the bottom, probably not treated very well, to be honest. Whereas in this clan, he's treated really well. Pretty, his mother, who is no longer with us, and she was so pretty. She was quite high-ranked. She was very high-ranked. We think second. She was very, very close to Corky. But her mum, Madam, was a very high-ranked hyena. So Pretty was always in a good position, which put Swazi in a good position. Yes, Swazi, I completely agree with you. Yes. I feel like June is grooming the cub. I feel like the cub is just right there. Sarah, you're... Sorry, Swazi wants to answer that question for you, Sarah. Did you understand that, Sarah? But you are asking about the time of... Actually, I didn't get that question. I was looking at Johan to tell me. So I don't actually know the question. Something to do with the time of day at the den. But maybe FC shall repeat that for me, Sarah, and then I'll answer. What is the best time? Aha. To be honest, as I mentioned earlier, they are nocturnal animals. And they're more active during the day. Daytime is for resting, recuperating, letting themselves rest and digest, really. Normally they have big, huge bellies, and to avoid the sun. So in summertime, you will find that they're almost completely nocturnal. It gets so incredibly hot here in the Lowveld that an animal, especially one coated with hair, is really not going to lie out in the sun. And even in the shade, there's not much relief, as you all know. We complain about it continuously. But during winter, it's very, very different. It's cold during the night. So you'll find a lot of species out here will just rest, find somewhere warm, a burrow, a sheltered area, and sleep. And they'll actually be more active during the day. They need their vitamin D from the sun, and it'll still be cold during the day, but you'll tend to find them a lot more active. Now, this is a massive generalization, but especially when it comes to your predators, you will find there's a shift throughout the year, a seasonal shift, very, very slight, but it happens in their daily pattern, and that's very normal. Animals adapt to environmental conditions or environmental cues, and that includes the sun and the weather patterns. So we are obviously in summer, so it's still very warm. It's just not sunny. And that's why it's a really good sort of day to come to the hyena den. So I did leave the Talamatis, but I promise I'll go back to them. So I have to catch up with the Juma clan, of course, and everybody's here. I think they had a really active night last night. I think everybody did. The cup is there, I know it. I just wish I'd been more active at checking the other dens. I did check, but I knew June was pregnant. I'm a little bit annoyed at myself that I didn't do more den checking. It's a lot of work going around the dens. But of course she has brought the cub in her mouth, as you all saw on the dam cam, to this very den, Philemon's Den 3. Which to me is just the worst den. It's really not that impressive a termite mound, and yet the hyenas love it. So I'm sure I don't need to say this, but I shall. We're going to sit here, and the minute we see a cub's head, you'll be right back with us.
Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at and Beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
Hello, boy. You are a monster. And he's coming right up to us. Hello, boy. Oh, settle down. Settle down. He is very, very close. He's pushing his trunk against the car. You can feel the car moving. Hey, 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 hey. Stop that.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Swazi's been very naughty here. Swazi. He is literally pushing June's head out the way to get a look at the cup. Swazi, no, Virgin. There's a cup. There's a cup. Did you see it? Just go a little bit wider, Johan. It was on this side. There you go. Hello, little one. We can see you. I saw you. I saw you. I'm not going to cry, everyone, again. That was rather embarrassing the last time I cried, but I do feel a little bit overwhelmed. Well, I think it was all due to Swazi's terrorizing here, but we saw you. Swazi, what are you doing? Such a troublemaker. Okay, Ruth, you asked a question and I wasn't ignoring you. I'm sorry, there was just a lot of action there. My goodness, and your question was... Yes, is it unusual for a hyena to have one cub? Actually, no. So they normally give birth to twin litters. They normally give birth to 2 cubs at a time. And unfortunately, not all make it. It's a very, very risky birth. If you look at a hyena, they have a very unusual sort of birth canal. So once the cub leaves the uterus and travels down the birth canal, they have to take a 90-degree bend. Yes, not only that, the birth canal is twice as long as it is in other mammals. It's incredibly long. So they've got to make it through that 90-degree bend, and then, of course, they've got to, well, make it to the end of the birth canal, and it's really, really not easy for the mother or the cub, and many don't make it. First-time mothers also sometimes don't make it. Or the twin litter could have been given birth to successfully, and then something went wrong. An injury by the other cub, accidentally, predator, an injury from mom. You really never know. So she could have given birth to 2. And to be perfectly honest, there actually could be 2 in that den. I know we only saw her travel 1, but she can only sort of hold 1 at a time. There could in fact be 2 in there and we just don't know it. Now I think there is only 1, but we don't actually know. Now there's lots of action happening over here, but I don't know what to do. We should probably give you a little bit of a look. Maybe I should reposition. We've got Ribbon, Heart, Ngwazi, Shimbulu, and Hearts 2, and Swazi just causing trouble. But I also want to keep an eye out for this cub decisions. I remember Davi and I sat for hours and hours and hours, and Davi was pretending to enjoy every moment of it, waiting for Ribbon's cub. And it always pays off. Here comes trouble. You see, he's not as fluffy anymore. He's getting taller. His ears are so perfect, though. He's still a youngster. But he really does look different. Both Swazi and Indabele, that was a twin litter from Pretty, brother and sister, they survived. And I think I was the last one to see Pretty, his mother, on her final days, and it was very sad. I still can't quite pinpoint what happened to her, but she was really, really not in a good way when we last saw her. She was such a lovely female for the Juma clan, and we lost her. Okay, June, my girl. Can we get another view, please? Now, this cub, June's cub, will probably be nervous around all of these adults. Sorry, FC, one more time with that question. I'm trying to pay attention to everything that's going on around me. Totally not getting this question. Laura Moore, you're asking, do hyenas something dens for their cubs? Split? Go to separate dens? I'm going to answer that question. If that's not your question, I do apologise. Generally speaking, when it becomes a communal den, all the cubs should be together. And it's for integration. It's for a lot of reasons. Protection. And although we see a lot of aggression between possibly the adults, the females, and the males, at the end of the day, they're part of a clan. They're a social animal, and their social structure is very, very important. Now, yes, their social structure is what makes them hyenas. And they really, really could not survive without their sort of social structure that they have in place. They have a matriarch. It creates order. It allows them all to be sustainable if they stick to that order. Now, if you imagine if hyenas did not have a social structure and they were just running amok everywhere, it would be pandemonium. But they do have a social structure, and it keeps them all in order. And although they do change it up from time to time, at the end of the day, the social structure is really important. So that means that the cubs do have to integrate with one another. They're not enemies. They're competitors, yes, but they're not enemies. They do require one another, and it allows them to play, engage, and learn. These cubs have got a lot to learn. They're born far more precocial than the other predators' cubs, but they're still slightly altricial. That's why they're kept in dens. It's not like an impala lamb that can just hit the ground running. No, they've got a lot to learn. They've got muscles to develop. They don't eat meat straight away. And therefore, the cubs need to be together. But if a cub's too young, there's a lot of danger from interacting with the other cubs, because they may hurt it by accident. Now, it won't be intentional, but if you look at Ngwazi and Shimbulu, they're huge now. They're massive, and they could easily play with this little cub and hurt it. And that's why she keeps it away for quite some time. And then whenever June decides the time is right, she'll bring the cub to the communal den, and that's when all the interactions start. The adults get to meet the cub. That's why Swazi is very excited. And the cubs get to meet the cub. Okay, so I'm going to sit here a little bit longer. I think I'm going to reposition so we can get a nice view of everyone. And we're going to send you over to the hyenas, enemy, some lions.
On the top, they're having coffee. Welcome back to Ambient Pinda. Our 4 lions haven't really moved too much. Those 2 young males have still got their heads up and are still looking in the direction of where those baboons were calling. Ooh, I now see that there's something else over there that is definitely a lot more exciting for them than some baboons. There's a pair of wildebeest that look like they might be interested in coming across that little, there's a bit of a dried pan in front of us. And I wonder if those wildebeest are not looking to come down either to graze at the bottom of the dried up pan, or to come across to the water that's behind us. For now, just waiting patiently. I don't know if the wildebeest are aware of the lions. The wind is blowing from the wildebeest to the lions, so the wildebeest won't be able to smell the potential danger that's lying on top of this termite mound. But perhaps the lions, I suppose that very pale colour, we spoke about earlier, how I spotted the lions with their very pale bellies against the reddish-brown backdrop of the termite mound, might give them away to the wildebeest. But let's sit tight and see what happens. Just having a look through my binoculars, look at that middle lion, that young male. He's lying on his mother's tail, almost using it as a pillow. Almost as if using it as a pillow. And have a look at his chest, everyone. Look at his mane. Interesting to see at how full, how much hair there is kind of growing on his chest and on his throat and on his chin, compared to his brother just to the left, and just back of him, whose main development on the back of his neck is pretty much limited just to that little mohawk that runs down the back of his neck between his ears. Lorna, you're asking if lions go into a deep sleep. Lorna, they're one of the few animals out here in the bush that can afford to do something like that. Here you go, he's getting up. Because of their place in the food chain, being the apex predator out here, they can afford to go into a deep sleep. But even that being said, Lorna, if, for example, if something were to rustle in the grass close to them, or if maybe a herd of wildebeest were to walk downwind of them, I suppose within a certain distance, they'd be able to smell them. But the slightest little disturbance, the slightest sound or change in the wind or increase in the wind speed, maybe bringing a scent, that will bring them out of that deep sleep pretty quickly. Although that being said, I've watched lions in very deep sleep have potential prey come wandering past them, or what seems to happen a bit more often is often with a big male, a dominant male, while he's courting a lioness, or while he's with a pride of lions, hoping that he'll maybe get lucky in terms of stealing some of the food that they bring down, and the rest of the pride wants to leave him, wants to get away from him. They all stand up and tiptoe quietly away from him, and then he wakes up and looks around and looks completely lost. The rest of his family's abandoned him. So that being said, although they are for the most part pretty good at keeping a good awareness about themselves, it does happen every now and then that things will slip past them. But because of their place in the food chain, they can afford to sleep deeply. Now that one little subadult, well, not so little subadult, has moved off of the mound, and I wonder if he's not gonna, almost just looking at his body language and his movements. Oh, he hasn't gone very far. He's just gone down the termite mound. Coming and lying on top of his mum. Okay, you're asking at what age these lions would be considered adults. Okay, I suppose these lions, they'll be mature, they'll be actually able to mate when they, and I suppose that would be the definition of an adult. And that will be from about 2.5 years, somewhere around there, or 2.5 years. But in terms of them actually reaching their full size and getting into their prime and being likely to be able to compete for the right to mate, being able to compete for a territory, that'll normally be when they're about 5 years old. So they're still quite a way away from that. So still very much sub-adults, adolescents at this stage. So it depends whether or not the definition of adult would be when they're able to breed, as opposed to when they are likely to be breeding and to be at their full size. Ooh, have a look at that middle sub-adult lion, everybody. Firstly, look at how much bigger he looks than his brother to the left of him. But also look at his right shoulder. I don't know if you can see, there's a bit of a dark red mark at the back of his shoulder there. And looking through my binoculars, it looks like it's a puncture wound where he's taken either a claw or a tooth to his shoulder. Oh, apparently there's some action going on at Djuma. Let's quickly head across there.
We got a great view of the cub. I'm just looking at my photos. It's young. Did you see it? Hello. I'm sorry Swazi's giving you such a hard time. Swazi. It's very young. Hello, little one. Welcome. Welcome to Wild Earth. There's lots of people around the world watching you, and they will love you. Well done, June. I am so proud of you, girl. Swazi, you cannot keep doing this to the poor cubs. He's too excited. He's very, very excited. Hi. What a welcome back. That's right, June. You bum him out the way with that big bottom of yours. Ooh, Chantel. Interesting question. Oh. I highly doubt it because of his age. But hyenas are promiscuous, and therefore the females do mate with many different males, just like our leopards and our lions. So we'll never know who the father is, which is unfortunate. I would absolutely love to know who fathered all these cubs. Hello, hello. But we will never know, sadly, and I think just because of Swazi's age, it's highly unlikely to be him. But I could be wrong, because we don't know. Normally, males become sort of sexually mature earlier than females do. And it's normally around 2 years old for the males. But they don't immediately start mating at 2 years old, if that makes sense. Sorry, I can't concentrate. There's cuteness happening beside me. Oh my goodness. Everybody's very alert. They will know the lions are not too far away. They're far enough away, but they will know. They will be able to smell and hear those lions. And lions absolutely are a threat to the cubs. Now, June's last litter was 2 females, as I've already mentioned, Swana and Sutu. So I wonder what will be in store for this female. Is June at the bottom of the hierarchy? I don't know. But I know she's not had an easy year. Sorry, year. Just look at that ear. Oh. You're asking how long does it take for a hyena cub to start eating meat. Interestingly enough, they have the sort of longest lactation period in all mammals. Hyena cubs can drink milk from their mother for up to 2 years. 2 years. That's a very, very long time. But normally it's around 18 months that you'll find they sort of stop taking milk from mother. And around about 6 weeks, you start to see them really leaping and bounding around the den. They come out a lot more. You can see this one's still very young. It's pure brown in colour, and it's very, very nervous. This is all new to this cub, remember? It's very, very new to be surrounded by adults and all these vocalizations. But I think in a week or two's time, we'll start to see it come out the den a lot more. And the adults will bring carcasses to the den. And the cubs, of course, will be attracted by the smell, and they'll want to nibble and taste, but it's not really eating at that stage. They'll nibble, but it's not fully eating. But normally anywhere between the 8-week mark and the 10-week mark, you will start to see them nibbling on carcasses. It smells far too delicious not to. And then slowly but surely, each week after that, you'll start to see them eating. Just little bits by little bits, but they'll still very much be in milk. And this is to get their immune systems ready, to get them the taste for meat, understand how delicious it is, understand the smells, the scents. Now, they have one of the strongest immune systems, one of the lowest sort of concentrations of stomach acid on that pH scale, but they still need to get their bodies ready for it. And that's why slowly but surely they'll start to nibble on the meat, they'll start to lick the meat, and then ever so slowly they'll start to eat it. But with small jaws like that and small bodies like that, they won't be able to eat very much. The milk of the mother is also said to be one of the most nutritious in the animal kingdom. It's extremely high in calcium from all the bones that the adults eat. It's extremely high in protein in order to build a huge animal like what we're looking at. And it's extremely high in fatty acids, all the minerals and vitamins that one needs. June, what do you see, girl? You're making me nervous. Go call your cub back out again. I want to see more. But it's really nice to see June here. Ribbon's still here, everyone. Heart's here. Swazi's here. So all of the dominant females other than Antima are here, and June is obviously quite comfortable. So once again, I'm going to sit here and enjoy my morning with the Juma clan.
And so we've got one of the rarest birds in Africa. It's framed up here in the riverbed. We actually had a beautiful view of a brown snake eagle who heard the words live and literally just took off. And so we've resorted to showing you this hardy-dar, which is quite unusual to watch it in the riverbed, and with that long beak it's been probing, looking for insects, see as it's doing there. So looking for things that are underneath the ground. And that bill will be very sensitive, so it sticks its bill into the sand and looks around and hopefully brings up some things like worms or maybe some insects that are hiding underneath the sand. So we have come down into the Timbavati River, as you can see here. It's a really, really beautiful spot. And the reason why we've done so is because we had quite a decent amount of rain last night, which means that it's almost like a nice clean sheet. So we can spot very fresh tracks of animals that have been moving around, and within this area there's a female leopard with 2 cubs we often find. And so I'd really like to see how much the 2 cubs have grown within the last month or so. So we've decided to come in and see if we have any luck here. So again, a second hardy-dar. And
You're back with us here at Ambionpinda, and look at these lions, everybody. Look at the two young males on the right and how alert they are. Their ears are pricked and they're staring intently straight at us, but it's not us that they're looking at. Excuse me. Just behind us is that waterhole that I was talking about, and they're not easy to see now, so we won't try and show them to you just yet, but there's a group of Inyala that have just come down to drink at this waterhole. It looks like also some impala that are making their way down, and that's got the attention of these young male lions. Look at how intently they're staring. But it's just the two of them for now. Let's see if that third brother, now that he's lifted his head, if he also spots... No. He's not concerned. But I mean, looking at him, look at how big his belly looks. Oh, mouth is up. And looking in our direction. The wind has just changed direction ever so slightly, everyone. And it's blowing slightly more from the west, so more over our backs. Which means that it's bringing the smell of these Inyalas towards that lioness. Remember I said earlier, talking about the lions being in a deep sleep, and how a change in wind direction, a change in wind speed, and the wind bringing the smells or carrying scents would maybe bring a lion out of its sleep. That's exactly what I think has happened here. Although that lioness doesn't seem to be too interested. It may be that she's not... Maybe she didn't quite get the smell of those Inyala, but just the change in the wind direction woke her up. And that third brother is now staring also at the Inyala and the Impala, with his head on his paws. Okay, it looks like, oh my word, there's a whole group of Impala. Let's come around and have a look at them. Linda, you're asking which pride of lions this is. Linda, these are members of the pride of lions that live in the southwest of the reserve, out in the open grasslands, the Bayala pride. So have a look there at all the animals that are streaming down to the water. Oh, there's even a warthog there too. Warthogs and impalas and Inyala. Looks like a bachelor herd of impala. See how it's all males? And there's one that's looking rather suspiciously in our direction. So I wonder if he has not maybe... No, never mind, he's looked away. I was going to say maybe he caught a glimpse of the lions. But I'm surprised. I was just saying now to Glenn, I'm surprised to see these Inyalas out here in the open at this waterhole. We're quite far from any dense cover, which is the preferred habitat of these Inyala. But obviously their desperation to quench their desperate need for water, to quench their thirst, has driven them to come up to this little waterhole here. Ordinarily, the drainage lines and the little ravines, especially at this time of year when we have had a bit of rain, normally holds like rainwater puddles, and that's normally where they'd go and drink. But they're obviously in need of water. But see how nervous that Inyala is. He's very, very, very nervous around the water, just like those giraffe were yesterday, and the zebra, when they came down to drink. And this is exactly the reason. I mean, these lions have perhaps drank here already. Maybe their smell is all around the waterhole, and that's why those Inyala are so nervous. The Inyala won't be able to smell the lions now. The wind is blowing their scent away from them. But perhaps the scent has lingered around the water from where the lions drank. Excuse me. And also, of course, this might be why the lioness has kept her youngsters here, is to wait for something to come down to drink. And that's exactly what's happening. But The lioness doesn't seem to be too interested for the time being. Of course, antelope like these impala, and the inyala as well to an extent, be very nimble and agile and relatively difficult animals to catch for a lion. So she might be waiting for something. Oh, there we go. She sat up again. Sorry, when the lioness is sat up again. And she's now looking around. And I'm sure that if she looks in this direction, she's going to spot either the impala or maybe the warthog or maybe the inyala. Lisa, you're asking what my favorite antelope is. Lisa, that's a tough question. I haven't thought about that too much, but there are three that come to mind. I love eland, something that you may have seen up in the Masai Mara and up at Swalu. But we don't get eland here, and we don't get sable here, and for me those are two of my favorites. I suppose, Lisa, it has to be kudu. Kudu are my favorite, just because of their elegance, and I love how well they camouflage into their surroundings. And I can sit all day and watch a really impressive kudu bull with those massive spiraled horns. I think they're just majestic. Okay, that lioness is looking around quite intently now, everybody. Look at how she's making those twitchy movements, looking from side to side. I wonder if she's not spotted something, because she was looking slightly more left and suddenly she snapped her head towards the right. Well, whatever it was obviously not too interesting, because she's now put her head back down. And it looks like the inyala have had enough to drink and they've started to move off. I wonder if, like I was saying, that young male that's facing towards us, that's lying out in the open, you can almost see, can you see how his belly is kind of expanding a bit outwards? Looks quite full, so I don't think they're too hungry. But with lions being opportunistic, they'll take any hunting opportunity they can get. And I'm just thinking, looking at that waterhole, we spoke yesterday about how lions, apart from the advantage of having prey come to them, basically, with them waiting near water, there's also the factor of the busyness of a waterhole, all the hooves trampling the ground and therefore opening the area up. That makes it favorable for lions to rest there, because they can see all around them and scan for potential prey, scan for potential danger. But of course, from a hunting perspective, just imagine how tough that will make it for this lioness to creep up on her prey. And that might also be why she's not lying right there by the water if she is gonna be looking to try and hunt, because there's no cover there for her. It's all too open. Even though she is very fast, she's only fast over a very short distance. She's very muscular, very explosive. So she'll need to get quite close to her prey and remain undetected by her prey if she is to be successful in her hunt. And she won't be able to do that if there's insufficient cover. But here, a little bit further away from the water, even though they're up on that elevated perch for now, look at all the bushes around. There's a lot of cover for them to hide in. And so that will definitely work towards, or work to her advantage. Bubbles, you're asking how good a lion's eyesight is. Bubbles, it's very good. It's tough to quantify in terms of how far away they can see things, but I've been watching lions where they've spotted things across valleys that must have been a kilometer or so away. They've spotted either a herd of impala or a herd of wildebeest or another lion or another predator like a cheetah or something, and they've spotted it moving, and you can watch their body language change, and it becomes quite obvious that they've spotted something. Their ears prick up and their eyes, they take on this very intense stare. But Bubbles, their eyesight is very good. Look how their eyes are in the front of their face, just like ours. So very good binocular vision, good for seeing things from far away. But like many of the animals out here, movement is what gets their attention. So if something moves, even just subtly, that's what'll get their attention. Again, that lioness is looking off to the left. Now, where she's looking, again, she seems to have lost interest. But where she's looking, there's a bit of a culvert where the road crosses over a small kind of ditch. And in that culvert, it's kind of like a pipe that goes underneath the road. It's a perfect place for burrowing animals to rest during the night. And we often see warthogs going down there in the evenings and then coming out there early in the morning. And I wonder if perhaps that's not what she's looking at. Maybe there's a warthog that's thinking about emerging from its little bit of shelter. And there's a better view of that young male's belly. It's not super full, but there is a decent bulge. Oh, look what he's doing. See how he's pulled his lips back and he's grimacing. It's a behavior that many of you will be familiar with, called a Fleming Grimace. And he's still going. And what he's doing is that he's taken in a scent into his mouth, and he's taken in a scent. And then what he does is that he basically pulls his face back to allow that scent to, and then inhales to allow that scent to pass over an organ in the roof of his mouth called the Jacobson's organ. And that's just to allow him to better analyze the chemicals in a scent, the pheromones. So it might be that his mother urinated there, or maybe one of his siblings urinated there. Just to give him a way of better analysing that scent. Alright, I think Glenn and I are going to spend a little bit more time here with these lions, just to see, because I think if an animal does come down to drink and comes past them, there's a chance that we'll see some activity from them. In the meantime, though, let's go across to Lauren at Juma, who's doing a bit of birding at the dam.
And just like that, it was over at the hyena den. In a flash, they heard something, they all scattered. Oh, there you are. We're playing peekaboo with the hippo at Treehouse Dam. He was playing with his stick. It was rather entertaining. But sadly, he knows the camera's now on him, and he's a little bit embarrassed that he's a big hippo, and he's playing with a stick. But sticks can be highly entertaining, lots of hours of fun if you're a hippo. Come on, we know you've got your stick down there. But yes, it was such a remarkable morning at the hyena den. We got to see the cub. I could only see one, so I assume there's one. You never know, though. And from what I could witness this morning, the cub is now very much integrated into the society, if you like. Oh, big stick. Yes, you've impressed us all. Before coming to Juma, I had no idea that hippos played with sticks, but we see it a lot, especially Dewey at Gowrie Dam. Oh, he loves his stick. The bigger, the better. But yes, I think this little hyena cub is now fully integrated. There was a male, there was Swazi, there was Ribbon, Matriarch, Hart, who also sits in quite a good position, number 3 in the hierarchy. All the other cubs. So I really think slowly but surely I'm obviously going to check every single day. We'll start to see more of this little one, but it's young, it's very young. I didn't get the full body, but just from the coloration of the face, it's around 4 to 5 weeks, I think. And that's why June's slightly protective over it. It's still young. Come on, hippo, one more time with the stick. Oh, now we really are shy. Oh. He's just checking we're still here. Well, there you go. Helicopter style. That was a territorial display we just got there. Spraying his poop everywhere. Yes, we know this is your dam. I have no desire to join you here, Mr. Hippo. As much as I love water, no, thank you. Now we're just going to do a bit of a loop after this and eventually head back to the lions, of course, to catch up with the Talamatis. But I feel like I've been gone a long time. I just want to check on everything. See what's been happening in the past 2 weeks. I don't think we're going to get any more sticks displays. Can't believe the morning we had at the Hyena Den. I feel really lucky and emotional. The Juma clan has suffered a lot of loss, a lot of upset, upheaval, changes, and it's not a big clan. Really not that many adults. 5 females to run the entire clan. I mean, females can run the world, we all know that, but still, it's not a big clan, especially when you compare it to the North clan or any of the clans in the Masai Mara. Oh, our grey heron just flew off, sadly enough. And I don't think our hippo is going to answer to, oh, I'm wrong. It's got his stick. Yes, it's so wonderful. I guess it must get a little bit isolating and boring in a dam all by yourself when you're a young boy. There's no ladies, there's nothing to entertain you. So you're going to opt for the stick. My other mission for today and the up and coming days is termites. They have to be active by now. They must be. There's enough moisture and warmth in the air. They wait for the summer rains. They relish the summer rains. And as soon as they come and it's warm enough, you will see termites, especially in the low veld, very, very active. And I became slightly obsessed with them. I'm reading The Soul of the Ant, a wonderful book by an Afrikaans man. And it's online, actually. You can get it. It's a free book. The author's name has completely failed me. I think it's Eugene Murray. I could also be lying to you. Oh, I'm getting a thumbs up from my cameraman. He must have read that book. I got it right. I'm not lying to you. And yes, it's a fantastic book. If you Google it, The Soul of the Ant. It's about the white ant, which means it's actually about termites and not ants at all. It's just fantastic. If you are interested in termites or insecty things, then yes, go for it. Now, I didn't catch that name, but you're asking what animals hippos would fight with underwater. Now, they're known to bump noses with crocodiles, but generally, they cohabit the same space. So you'll find crocodiles and hippos, maybe not Treehouse Dam, but the likes of Chitwa Dam, sharing the same environment, using the same ecological niche, and therefore it wouldn't make sense for them to constantly battle. But they do bump heads occasionally. You've got to think crocodiles are reptilian carnivores and hippos are mammalian herbivores. So they're really not competing for the same resources other than space in the water. They're not competing for the same food. So they don't really have the need to fight, technically speaking. So the most common animal you will see hippos fighting with are other hippos. Yes, they're notorious for fighting, especially the males. Very territorial. Although this is a young male, I think. And they get very possessive over their little harem of females. They've got to sort of fight with one another in order to keep the females and keep the space, keep the area. The bulls can be very territorial, especially in winter, when resources are not so readily available. The vegetation's not so delicious and palatable and lush. They're struggling for food. They're maybe not getting all the nutrition they need, and the water levels are low, generally speaking, in winter. Although the winter we've just went through was not tough at all. All the water bodies were full. So you will find other hippos fighting with hippos. So I'm going to bumble now, see what else I can find on Djuma, and we are going to send you across to some antelope.
We've got this really beautiful view of this male kudu, and there's actually a couple of them around this area. We're still in the riverbed looking up onto one of the banks. And the interesting thing about this male kudu is feeding on the bush. And if you look at the bush, there's just those bright orange flowers all around. And so this is a bush called Pride of the Cape. And by the looks of things, both of these male kudus have been focusing, and they're actually feeding on a lot of the flowers as well as some of the leaves. And now it's just ducked behind the bush. So I hope we get another view of it. They are moving and zigzagging through these bushes, so it is quite difficult to keep track on them. But hopefully one will show itself and reveal. At least we got a really beautiful view of the first one initially, and see the movement of the one through the bushes there. And they're moving very silently, and the way that we saw them is we were actually driving past. And because the noise of our engine was quite loud, they both picked up their heads, and we just saw these beautiful spiraled horns silhouetted above the bushes as they were watching us. And as soon as they realized that we weren't threatening them, they relaxed, and we managed to watch them feeding. It was nice to see them feeding on those flowers, which was cool. One of the first times I've seen a kudu feeding on flowers, and I'm sure that sweet nectar is really tasty at this time of year. So it's another change that's happened within the last month or so of me being here. The flowers seem to be popping up, the bushes are just a lot more dense, and now the kudus have disappeared. So I think I'm going to continue driving along the riverbed. We still haven't seen any tracks of any of those leopards that we're looking for, but crossing fingers and holding thumbs that we might get a bit lucky. We did hear elephants calling slightly further up ahead, so we might see them along the banks doing exactly the same thing as those kudus are doing, slowly feeding for the morning. It's a really nice, cool day. We're actually starting to get a little bit of rain, or a light drizzle rather than a rain. And so, I mean, I don't think this light drizzle is going to affect the animals' behavior too much.
My favorite animal is a leopard, purely because I just think they are just the epitome of feline grace and power, and the way they can move about in any environment and remain hidden until they want to be seen, I just find incredibly intoxicating, and they're amazingly beautiful.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
My name is James Hendry, and I work here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands on the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park. My favorite part of getting questions from viewers is that we get to have long and varied discussions about all sorts of different aspects of nature. Because our audience comes from all over the world, it's very special to have different perspectives from everywhere. If you want to submit a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to the Live Safari page and submit your question beneath the live feed.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Juma. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
Welcome back to Ambient Pinda, and unfortunately things haven't changed too much. The lions have become less and less active. They're all lying flat now except for that young male on the far right who had the decency to lift his head as soon as you guys came back to join us. But we've been watching animals coming and going from this waterhole. The young male lions have been watching as well. The most recent visitors to the waterhole were a pair of wildebeest bulls. And the sub-adult lions watched with interest, but the lioness scarcely lifted her head. So it doesn't seem like food is on her mind at the time, or at this time. Seems like she's keen just to take it easy and rest. Like we said, I haven't had a good look at her belly, but the sub-adults' bellies all look relatively full, so perhaps they've had a successful night of hunting already. Perhaps they came here just to drink and have now moved away, and this termite mound has provided them with a lovely spot to lie down, where they've got both a good vantage point from which to scan their surroundings, and also a nice spot to be elevated and in the breeze to keep them nice and cool. Look at how comfortable they look. None of them are panting. They all look very comfortable. That lioness, though, again, ever vigilant and ever alert. Look at how she's now looking off to the right. Last night we were speaking about the black spots, the functions of the black spots on the backs of a lion's ears. Look at how, even from this distance, you can see exactly which way her head is pointing based on where those black spots are orientated. Obviously you guys are looking through the zoom of the camera, but we're probably about 40 or 50 meters away from these lions, and looking with the naked eye, it's very, very, very plain to see which way the lions' heads are all facing based on where those ears are pointing. So she's looking off to the right, and I'm going to try and see if I can follow her gaze with my binoculars to see if I can see what she's looking at. There's a lot of Egyptian geese. You can hear them honking in the background. There they come. There's at least 4 of them. They're all coming down to that little waterhole, it seems. But that is not what the lioness is looking at, though. She's looking across that dried up pan. I think I see what she's looking at, but it's required binoculars for me to see. There's a troop of monkeys that is very boldly crossing an open area, maybe about 400 meters, maybe 500 meters away, in the direction of where that lioness is looking. So I suppose there you go, that's an illustration for just how good these lions' eyes are. I needed binoculars to see them, even though they were moving quite quickly through a pretty open area. And they've all crossed the gap now, and the lioness has turned her head away from where those monkeys were. It's actually amazing how chilly it's getting here, everyone. It's been so hot the last couple of days. I came out with nothing but with no jacket. And I'm regretting it now. It's getting a little bit nippy. I think it's a sign that there's perhaps some rain on the way. The wind is blowing quite steadily from the south, from the southwest. That's typical weather that preludes to a bit of rain here at Ambient Pinda. But as I was saying earlier, perhaps these lions have already eaten in the night and moved quite far. Bigson, you're asking if different lionesses in a pride will have different roles in a hunt. from what I've seen, watching lionesses hunt here at Ambiampinda, that's not always the case. Typically, when we watch lionesses hunt, there's often a couple lionesses that loop around one way and a couple that go around the other way, and then one group will chase the potential prey towards the other group, kind of thing. But it's not always the same lioness that's in the catching position, not always the same lionesses in the chasing position. So I think they all kind of they all know what has to happen, and they're all able to play either role. But that's just in my experience from what I've watched. It may be different in some areas, that there's perhaps with lion prides that specialize in hunting certain kinds of prey, or where there's lion prides where the dynamics are a little bit different, where there's maybe only one older experienced lioness and the rest of the lionesses are all a bit younger and less experienced, and they may be hunting animals that require a bit more tact or a bit more skill, things like buffalo or giraffe, where there's maybe only one lioness that is skilled and experienced enough to make the pounce or to deliver the killing bite or the killing chokehold. And then yes, there will definitely be that one lioness that takes on that role each time until the other lionesses have learned how to do things. But with the lion prides here at Ambiampinda, like I was saying, they all seem to be able to play the different roles pretty well. Whether that be doing the loop around, like I said, or doing the actual catching. And sometimes it's quite interesting to watch, because as guests in a vehicle, as a ranger in a vehicle, watching the hunt, you try to think in your mind, okay, if it was me, then this is what I would do. And I think that this lioness is going to be the one to drive the warthog towards the others, or vice versa. And often, whether it be I don't know if it's always the plan of the lions, or if it's just the way that things pan out, things don't go as you expect them to. That lioness shifting a bit. Look at how big she is, how big her shoulders are. My goodness, and that line down the side of her body, where the lat of a human would be. There's that line that runs kind of diagonally from her hips down towards her chest. Look how prominent those muscles are. She might not be, I don't think she's the biggest lioness I've ever seen, but she's certainly one of the most muscular. And just from that brief glimpse that I got of her, she didn't look to be as full as the sub-adults. And she is facing now in a better direction to see... Ooh, there's some zebra over my back, everybody. Sorry. Just noticed. Like I said, there's water behind us, so there's going to be a stream of animals that are going to be coming down to drink throughout the day. And the latest arrivals... looks like 3 zebras coming down to drink. I was going to say, with her facing in the direction of the waterhole, she's going to be a lot more likely now to obviously to see things that are coming down to drink. And it will be interesting to watch her reaction to the different animals. Of course, with the sub-adult lions, the young males, everything that comes down, they look like they just want to eat it, so they get super excited. Reggie, you're asking if it's true that male lions sleep more than females. Reggie, from what I've noticed, they tend to sleep kind of equal proportions. Both males and females have their kind of life roles to fulfill. For example, lionesses have to hunt to feed themselves, and they've got to hunt to feed their cubs, and they've also got to kind of move around their territory and keep their territory patrolled to keep intruders out. And then of course the rest of the time they'll spend sleeping. The males have also obviously got to keep themselves fed, whether that be hunting for themselves or scavenging from carcasses that have been killed by lionesses or by other predators. And they've also got to patrol their territory. And Ray Chief, like for example, the male lions that live in this area, their territory is absolutely enormous. And so they've got lots of walking that they have to do, lots of ground that they have to cover, a lot of time that they've got to spend patrolling and scent marking to make sure that they keep the borders of their territory secure, so to speak, to check up on the lionesses of both prides to see if there's any that are coming into estrus. So they've also got a lot to do. And very often we tend to give male lions a hard time and say that they're lazy and don't do very much, but they definitely have a lot to do. They definitely have a life role to fulfill. And so I would say probably equal amounts of time that they spend resting. But with these lions still looking pretty inactive for now, I think that Glenn and I are going to move on from here, see what else we can find for you for the morning. In the meantime, let's go across to Eric at Ngala, where he's found some southern ground hornbills.
And so we've found some more birds in the riverbed, slightly more inspiring than the hardy-dar ibises we had a bit earlier on. And these two southern ground hornbills have been foraging along the river for the last 5 minutes we've been watching them. So there's one on the right-hand side there, and then as we pan over to the left, we'll see the other one. And so they're basically walking right next to one another, and they're just looking for any sort of thing. So they feed in a very different way to those hardy-dars, where those hardy-dars probe into the ground to look for invertebrates that are living underneath the ground. These guys have been spending a lot of time moving around all of the elephant dung you can see on the left and right, and this one I think is heading straight to that dung. So let's see what it does from here. And especially in these wet conditions, it's really good breeding environments for a lot of beetles and grubs and all sorts of different things. And so it's going to do exactly that, go into the dung, scratch around with its claws and its beak, and look for any funny things that it might be able to eat. As soon as it finds something, you'll often find it just gripping it in its mouth, and then in one motion it swallows the thing whole. Now, if they're lucky enough to find something a bit bigger, and maybe a snake or a scorpion, then they might spend a bit more time trying to get the stinger and anything that might cause them damage off. But what is really cool about this is just before we saw these two foraging along the river, we actually noticed one ground hornbill that was in a tree, and it hopped down into a cavity of a tree, and it looked like it's actually sitting on a nest, which is very, very exciting. And so that would be the female, who's currently hopefully incubating some eggs, and then these two will be looking after her. And so they'll be foraging like this, looking for anything to eat probably throughout the whole day, and then they might go back and help feed her, and hopefully within the next 2 or 3 months we've got another southern ground hornbill on Ngala. And see how far they've walked already. I mean, it doesn't look like they're moving quickly, but if you watch them, they do cover quite a lot of ground. And it's just really nice to get a break in the clouds to see them in some good light, and that red really just pops, especially on that male. He's the one that's got a lot of red. And Jill, these birds are really beautiful. I mean, they've just got a way about them, and I love watching them move. I wouldn't call them the prettiest birds in Africa, but just because they are pretty endangered, and just the way that they go about hunting and finding food is amazing. So the biggest thing that I've ever heard of southern ground hornbills catching and killing was actually here in Ngala, and there was a ranger who witnessed 5 of them going after a young impala lamb. and they managed to kill it and feed on it successfully, which is quite remarkable considering their size. I mean, they don't really have those really big tannins like a typical eagle does to catch and break a spine. And so most of that was done by pecking and almost pulling this poor young lamb apart. For the most part, they tend to feed on, like I mentioned, those little insects and invertebrates that we find around the bush, especially in the summertime. So a lot of dung beetle grubs, anything else that they can find. And now that they are moving quite far away, I'm going to just try and reposition. We'll see. I hope that they seem very, very relaxed, and so I don't think we'll disturb them if we go closer. If they do look like they're moving quickly away from us, I might just stop and we can watch them from a distance again. But it might be nice, especially once we've watched them for a couple of minutes, just to go back to the area where we saw that nest to see if we might be able to see that female. Sometimes we'll watch her and you'll just see the top of her head sticking up over the cavity in the tree, and she'll sit and watch you for a couple of seconds and then she drops back down, and so we lose visual of her quite quickly. And a bit earlier on I was mentioning how this rain creates this clean sheet. And what I might do is, especially once we've moved a bit further away from these ground hornbills, is to try and find some tracks of them to show you. There are really interesting looking tracks of these ground hornbills. Getting really nice and close, so I might just stop within the next 10 meters or so. See if we can get both of them in one shot. See if we can pull that off. It's quite incredible to see how unperturbed they are of this vehicle. So now that they're right next to one another, it gives us a really good size comparison. So we might be able to work out which one might be a bit bigger. A male or a female. So how we do that is by looking at the bull. And the males typically have got a much thicker set bull, and they'll have this, it's like a ridge on top of the bull. I think it's called a cask. So let's see, that one on the left-hand side there, which I think is in frame at the moment. Beaks, if we can maybe just zoom out and see both of them. Yeah, you see. So the one actually that's behind looks quite a lot bigger, and it seems to have quite a lot more red around the face. So I'd imagine that one is a male. And the second one, it seems like it might also be a male. Although that bull, look at that bull now, that's a really beautiful shot. Looks like it's slightly smaller, so that could be a female. I do know that it is quite common Liz, that's quite a good question, and she's asking why the larger predators don't go after these big birds. And Liz, these ground hornbills, although they're on the ground, and this is where they spend the majority of their time, they are capable of flying. And so if a large predator does come close into the area that these southern ground hornbills might be threatened, then they'll just take off and fly into a tree out of reach of the predators. Although they are a large bird, they don't really have a lot of meat on them. They might weigh a few kilograms, and so expending all of that energy and trying to catch a large bird like this is going to waste a lot of energy, and you're not going to get too much reward for it. So if a leopard, for example, were to see these, if it's a youngster, it might try nonchalantly, but it's not going to put a lot of effort into it. So they will try and go after something that will give them much more of a reward. So impalas, duikers, whatever you might find around these banks of the river. And this is a style that's very, very common with these ground hornbills, is they walk right next to one another, and they walk almost in a straight line. And particularly in grass, they like to do that because that gives them the opportunity, almost as like a flush line that they operate in. And there's often a very unlucky scrub hare that's resting up in the tall grass that gets flushed out, and these hornbills make very, very light work of it. I'm going to just reposition, because they were so unperturbed by the vehicle. I'm going to try and reposition again and see if we can get almost in front of them and see if they can walk towards us. So whilst we try and reposition here, we're going to send you back to Juma and see what Lauren has.
Now, I took a little bumble. I've missed bumbling with you all, but we really, really are going back to the Talamatis now. As far as I know from the game drive radio, they're still in the same place. So we'll go back and spend the rest of the morning with them, and I'm very, very glad I went to the den. You've just got that small window of opportunity with the hyena den in the morning, and then it's gone. Everybody leaves. They don't stay there all day, and I think they know the lions are around. Now, one wildebeest calf lost his life last night, and it's believed there could have been another one in the drainage, exactly where we saw the Talamatis come out. So I won't be able to poke my nose in there today. I think we received far too much rainfall last night. Some of the roads are closed. We're not supposed to go on the dam wall. The animals can, of course, but we can. And therefore, I won't go into the drainage, but I'm wondering if there's another carcass down there, because all of the Talamatis that we could see had extremely full bellies, and a wildebeest calf would not allow an entire pride to have full bellies. So I think there's something else down there, possibly an adult wildebeest, but we'll go and scratch around and have a little look and see. I have to say I'm a little bit disappointed. I went to the pan that I always called Lauren's pan because it's my favourite pan, south of Twin Dams. No weavers. Not one single weaver. And by this time in the year you would think that the weavers would be back. That's rather sad. I wonder if they're just abandoning ship and they're not going to come to that dam again. But other than that, all the dams are looking very full. Becky, you're asking about the water holes on Juma, and are they natural or man-made? Now, generally when we use the word dam or water hole, depending on where we're talking about, they're normally natural. They're sort of a natural water hole. Through time, geologically, they could have been formed by weathering, erosion, lots of different things, moving of the land. However, some of them have been reinforced. So a lot of the water holes, because of humans, vehicles, traffic, more erosion, more weathering, over time they've been reinforced. So the dam walls are potentially man-made, not dam-made, no, that's not correct, man-made, and reinforced with either sort of boulders or vegetation or those metal cages to help it retain this sort of structural integrity. Now, when we say pan, like for example Gallego pan, or that little pan in front of the dam cam, which I'm sure you've all seen many times, they're man-made. And the reason that Gallego pan is there and it's been pumped and it's man-made and it's maintained is, generally speaking, in winter, not the winter that we've just been through, but the winters in the past. If we've had a summer of drought, not much water, The vegetation's not flourished. Sorry about that. Apparently my mouth is not matching my words, so I'm not going to look at the camera for that reason. I'll hide my mouth. And yes, we make these pans to allow water during harsh times. During times of drought, the animals still need water. They're in a game reserve. And although they're not fenced around Juma, they're fenced around the entire Sabi Sands. And therefore, that's why we do make pumped pans, to allow animals to still have water, to still be able to survive during the very, very harsh times. Now, this winter was not harsh, and this summer is not going to be harsh either, but there has been some very, very tough years in the past. So, Becky, the pans, generally when we use that word, is man-made, it's pumped, and generally when we say waterhole or dam, it's not man-made, but it's probably been architecturally edited and reinforced along the way. I'm still not going to look at you all, I'm not being rude, but you know, my mouth is doing its own thing today, apparently. Or maybe it's the camera that's doing its own thing. One does not know. Now the lions should just be down here, if they haven't decided to up and move. Now on weather like today, it's very, very difficult to track. It's almost impossible. The ground is hard, the ground is wet, it's damp. I tend to avoid keeping my head down on days like today and trying to keep it up and actually look for animals. Now, although I've been gone for 2 weeks, I do believe this Wahlberg's nest, we saw one of the adults, the female this morning. The dark morph is the female from this nest. I still don't believe it's had any success. And of course, we've got our rain roof on, so we can't actually show you. But I don't think the Wahlbergs from this pair, Wahlberg's Nest Road, was successful this year, which is very sad. They've not had much success in the past either. Okay, we're slowly approaching our line, and hopefully my mouth will resolve the problem. But we're now going to send you across to Damon with some zebra.
Welcome back to and Beyond Punda. As I said, Glenn and I left those lions that had all flopped back down and gone back to sleep. So we'll maybe come past there a little bit later towards the end of drive to see if they've moved or gotten up to anything. While we were sitting with those lions though, we spotted this big herd of wildebeest and zebra from a distance, and we've moved in to come and have a closer look. And look at them all in front of us here. Oh, there's a baby! There's a baby wildebeest! No ways! Can you see it there, Glenn? In the dead, directly over the bull bar. Yes, I see. It's lying down! Oh my goodness, it's so cute! Now, I know Eric's shown you one of these already, but this is the first baby wildebeest that I've seen this season. And yesterday I was even saying that soon we might be seeing the first few little ones. Oh my goodness, it's so cute. It's still lying down. Its fur is dry already, so it's been around for at least a couple of hours. But look at how the other members of the herd, there's that sub-adult, that yelling wildebeest there, that's smelling it. And looking at all the females, they all look like they've got pretty big round bellies. And they'll probably be giving birth soon as well. I can't believe it. This is the first baby wildebeest that I've seen this season. And this comes back again to what what Trish was talking to you guys about last night, with little baby animals often being a slightly different color. Look at how much lighter this little wildebeest is than the adults. It's like almost like a pale reddish brown color, while the adults are all that dark gray. Look at the other herd. There's even more herd members that are coming to smell the little one. They're even licking it. Now it's lying down for now. Oh, but if it stands up again, I didn't quite get a chance to, when it was standing up, to have a look and see if I could still see any signs of an umbilical cord. But if you're able to maybe rewind the video, see if you can pause and zoom in and see if you can see any sign of that little umbilical cord. Of course, now an adult is laying down, well, not an adult, a juvenile, sub-adult wildebeest is laying down perfectly between us and the little calf, so we can't see it anymore. That has absolutely made my morning, seeing that little wildebeest calf. So exciting. Always this time of year, there's the little impala lambs and the little warthog piglets, and now the wildebeest calves as well. A pretty decent sized herd of wildebeest here. Michelle, you're saying how precious this is? Absolutely adorable. And so lucky that we got to see that little one for that brief moment before that juvenile wildebeest sat down and blocked our view. But I was saying quite a good sized herd of wildebeest here for southern or for South Africa. Obviously we don't get quite the same size, the same numbers in terms of wildebeest herds as somewhere like up in East Africa. Quite a big group of females. I'm trying to see if there's any bulls. There's at least one bull in the area, in this group as well, a territorial bull from this area. And look at how they're all lying down, resting for the time being. And a lot of them that are lying down, even the ones that aren't, the ones that are standing up. See how they, if you watch very carefully, watch their faces very carefully, their jaws, you might just be able to see that they're chewing, even though they haven't been putting their heads down to the ground to collect any grass. So they're ruminating, they're chewing the cud. But all standing or lying down. So resting, and that's something that ruminants have, an advantage that ruminants have over other herbivores, is that they're able to spend more time resting because of their way of digesting their food. That whole chewing the food a second time affords them the opportunity to lie down or to ruminate while lying down or while standing and resting and taking it easy. Something that herbivores that don't ruminate might not have as much time to do. They might have to spend a bit more time moving around and gathering food. Of course, there's all these wildebeest here, and off to the right there's also some zebra. And they're also standing and resting. Now, zebras are not ruminants, so they would, well, that's why they're not chewing. They're not chewing the cud. They're just taking it easy, standing, letting the wind blow over them. And all these herbivores kind of grouped together for safety in numbers. I can't believe it though. I'm so excited that we saw that little wildebeest calf. But I think with that other adult or that other wildebeest having lain down in front of it and having blocked our view, we're not going to drive forward towards them because we'll probably disturb these wildebeest. So what Glenn and I are going to do is we're going to give them some space. We're going to carry on driving, go see if we can find anything else this morning, maybe some birds. But there's a waterhole that I want us to go and check. So let's leave these wildebeest and these zebra to continue with their rest, and let's go see what else we can find.
Well, we found some remains of some poor animal that lost its life last night. All the Talamatis are here, I think. We have 5 adult females in the Talamati pride and 9 sub-adults. I always want to say cubs, but that's not correct. Sub-adults, 6 females, 3 males. And Darkmane, one of the avocas, is normally always with this pride. He really, really favours this pride. But I do believe he's at Inyala Dam up in Buffelshoek on a hippo carcass, which he has all to himself. So I imagine he has ballooned and he's resting and digesting. So I'm just going to do a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yes, everybody is here. That should be here with the Talamatis. It's a perfect morning. If you've been active all night, you've hunted, you've fed, you've been territorial, you've spent a lot of energy. Your energy budget will have taken a hit, just like when you go to the shops, your wallet takes a hit. This is why they're resting and recuperating. The fact that they're all full, they're going to be restoring their energy budget, energetics at play. But I imagine for the rest of the day today, they are going to be not doing very much. I think their diaries are empty for today, and they're going to relish the cool weather. Just like that.
Welcome back to Ambionpanda. I know I said that we were going to leave this herd of wildebeest, but just as I said that, the herd has stood up and they've started to slowly move towards the east. And we got another look at that little wildebeest calf. Its umbilical cord is still hanging from its belly, so it's brand new. It still looks a little bit wobbly on its legs. It's concealed currently in amongst all the bodies of the adults. Oh, jeez, what happened? Oh, the zebra are chasing each other around. And it just gave, on the far left there, just gave the wildebeest a bit of a fright. But there's that little wildebeest calf standing right on the edge of the herd, right next to Mum. See that pale little body? And if it just takes a few more steps to the left, we should be able to see that umbilical cord still hanging from its tummy. The brief glimpse that I got of that umbilical cord, it doesn't even look like it's fully dried yet. That's how young and how little this little wildebeest is. There we go, Mom's coming through. There we go, coming into the open. Very strange, everyone. I don't know if you can hear every now and then there's this snorting sound coming from the wildebeest. That alarm call that they make, that kind of snorting grunt sound. But none of them are looking in any particular direction. Apparently you guys can't hear things. Maybe just a bit too faint, and the wind also maybe drowning the sound out a little bit. Look at it, it's walking around. So I don't know if maybe just this wind that's blowing around and billowing around, carrying different scents all over the place and making it difficult for the wildebeest to determine exactly where the smell is coming from, maybe making them a bit nervous. And the last wildebeest to snort was the mother of that calf, so it might be that she's got those added nerves of her having the little one there. Now that little calf, again, enveloped in the wall of bodies of all the adults. You can't even see it. You'd never know that it was there. There's that big bull been rolling around in the dust there. And he's now defecating. Like I was saying, that is one of the big bulls, and so rolling around on the ground and then defecating, one of the ways that he'll mark his territory. But again, that little calf has been our view of it has been obscured. And so I think this time for real, we're going to move away from this herd of wildebeest. Let's go across to Tswalu. Apparently Deirdre has got something interesting to show you.
We are so happy to be back with you. We got chased away yesterday with a rainstorm, so welcome to Tswalu. I'm Deirdre, and on camera with me this morning is Davy. Nice, Davy, nice. So we've come back out to our dam where we were just having a look at that blacksmith lapwing on her nest, and the eggs are still there. So what I was talking about it the other day, but I want to show it to you now because we actually have this beautiful set of Kudu Horns. So this would have been a male kudu. But what I wanted to show you with my feather pointer from courtesy of our ostrich from the other day is that the tip of the horn, if I drew a straight line, and I'm going to pull the feather through so you can see what I mean, down to there, basically the eye, and I'll do it backwards now, from the eye all the way through to the tip of the horn, they can actually see when they're fighting each other where that tip of the horn would be. You can also age kudu bulls by looking at the horns relative to their ears. If the horns are less than the height of their ear, they're less than 18 months. Coming into the first curl, they're heading into 3 years, and then you can sort of add on 18 months to 3 years as you get up to here. Most books would say up to about 14. In the wild, more likely 10 years. And you can see an adult kudu bull, whether they're in their prime or not, by the little white tips of the horns. This will be the oldest part of the horn. Straight up, parallel like that, is a mature bull. Inside a slightly immature, and then going out a very mature bull or an older bull. So this one, 3, so beyond the sort of 7-year age, this one. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this particular individual was killed by the wild dogs. Don't forget to ask us questions at #WildEarth with @FC in front of the question. So this will just There's a grasshopper, there is too. He is one of the first instar stages of what's known as an elegant grasshopper. So, mikasa sukasa, they say. And that's exactly it. I saw 1 or 2 other little beetles and other insects scurrying around. This becomes a microhabitat. Why not? You know, there's a hole for something to live in if you're the right size, and it keeps potential predators away from you. Why not? There's still some skin beetles. You get horn borer moths that will come and lay eggs on the keratin sheath of the outer layer of keratin, and slowly that will get broken down. He's really cool. So that coloration, I'm actually watching him feeding. He's like chewing at what looks like some of the meaty material. So my little grasshopper is feeding. I'm going to send you over to Lauren that has some lions feeding.
No, this lion is clear.
Any updates?
Apologies. I'm struggling to tell which animal this leg belongs to. I wondered if it is a young wildebeest, but there's no way that that could have sustained all of these full bellies. And we're going to have to get a little bit of a closer look. There's a body to the carcass. We saw it move earlier. Now, I'm sure some of you were wondering, actually, I know some of you were wondering, why did Lauren leave the lions? I left them because I knew they would be here. I knew they would still be here. They're full. The Talamatis are not going anywhere, I can assure you. And it was lovely to be able to just sort of break up the drive, visiting the den. We got really, really lucky with June's cub, and then, of course, coming back and spending the rest of the drive with our sleepy Talamatis. Sleepy and full. Every single one of them is bulging. I wonder if there's an adult. Got very lucky last night, and it's so close to the dam cam as well. Oh, what mighty paws you have. Now, I mentioned before about the retractable claws. If you read any textbook or you're sort of learning about lions, you will hear that they've got retractable claws. But actually, the term protractable is more appropriate. They don't really have retractable claws. And that's because their natural state of these really, really sharp claws that they have is to be sheathed or hidden. So the claws, actually, I wonder if we'll get a really good look at this one, Johan, when you just look at those big paws. And this one having a snooze here. You can't see them. They're actually protected and hidden in the sheaths. So therefore, when they have a muscular contraction, because the claws are actually attached to ligament and bone, it pushes them forward. So that's why the term protractable, rather than retractable, is actually more appropriate because of their natural state. The natural state is to be hidden, kept away in those sheaths, and then they protract. And why are they hidden in that way? To protect them. A lion with blunt claws or no claws would be in big trouble. Angie, you're asking how many different calls do lions have? Not many. So normally the vocalizations of lions comes in a sort of roaring form, if you like, the lion's roar. And they can do this over great distances, and this is because of their voice box, the suspensorum. Now, it's non-ossified, so that means it's made from cartilage. When you say ossified, that means it's turned into bone. It's made from cartilage, which is a really sort of flexible, soft material that we have in our ears or the tips of our noses or inside our knee joints to act as shock absorbers. And it's a wonderful material in the animal kingdom. And it vibrates. So when the lions sort of project their vocalization from their voice box, it vibrates and sends out that sound very, very far and wide. Can even travel further on cold evenings. So they sort of have that roar, and then they will also have soft contact calls. So normally if the pride's split up, but they know they're nearby, maybe there's one pride on quarantine, there's one pride member down at the dam cam, there's another pride member just at Timbetta, they can make soft contact calls, and unfortunately I am not able to replicate that sound, and that's normally when they're just trying to communicate with one another. Where are you all? I've lost you. I got a bit distracted over here. So they can remain in contact at all times. They can follow one another by scent, but if they know that they're in the same area, then they can use contact calls, especially mothers and cubs. But for a pride, it's really, really important that they all stay together. Now, my experience with the Talamatis is definitely limited in comparison to the Nkuhumas, but every time I have spent time with the Talamatis, they're always together, all 14 of them. Whereas with the Nkuhumas, they do tend to split a lot more. They're a bigger pride. And lionesses can go off on their own. I've watched this countless times in the Masai Mara, but they will reunite. Didn't catch that name, but you're asking a very complicated question. So technically speaking, the male lion doesn't definitely know that the cubs are his. So let's just use the Avocas as an example. So there's 3 of them. We have Dark Mane, Blondie, and Mohawk. And they're a coalition. So although you don't regularly see them together, Dark Mane is injured and he spends a lot of his time up in Buffelshoek with this pride, whereas Blondie and Mohawk sort of travel a lot further with the Inkahumas. They're still the dominant coalition of the area, and they're still a coalition. Although they don't spend all of their time together, they'll be very gentle with one another, they'll spend time together, they're a unit. It's really important that they stay as that unit. A, to cover more ground, have a bigger territory. B, patrol that territory, maintain it. And C, to have more ladies, to sort of be the dominant coalition over more prides. Now, the lionesses will mate with all 3 of them. And this is normal. She comes into estrus, and of course there's a lot of chemical cues going on there that we don't understand, and her role is to be promiscuous. It benefits her to mate with all 3 of those lions. She's not trying to be naughty or cause trouble, but what she's trying to do is confuse the paternity. If she mates with each member of the Avoca coalition, that will entail that every single male will assume, and I use the word assume loosely because they're animals, that the cubs are theirs. Now, it's most likely going to be a father from that coalition. There's normally only one dominant coalition that resides over different prides at one time. It's quite rare for another male lion to swoop in from a different coalition. But whether it's Dark Mane, whether it's Blondie, something's just running. A wildebeest just... No, it's hyenas. Hyenas are chasing something. Hyenas are coming. Tails up. They just chase something. I'm not sure if you can see that hyena. Can you see it, Joanne? Wonder if that's those hyenas from this morning. I'm just going to roll forward a little bit and see if we can get a view of which hyena this is. Okay, I'm doing a really bad job at rolling forward. Okay, that didn't work. Apologies, everyone. There's a carcass in this drainage. I just can't go down. I don't know what it is, but there's a carcass down there. These hyenas are running like crazy in the background there. Did you see how quick those lions were up? The biscuit tin effect. That has no place in science, everyone. I just use that terminology because of my beagle. She will be snoring her head off and drooling slightly. Won't respond to her name, won't respond to anything, but you open that biscuit tin from another room. She's in the living room, you're in the kitchen, and you open that biscuit tin. Boom, within seconds, she's at your feet. It's incredible. And that's what I always say when these cats get up like that. You think they're sleeping, you think they're in the land of Nod, but they're not. They're always aware. It's a heightened sense of awareness, hypersensitivity. So I can't fully remember where I was here, but basically, any member in the male coalition won't actually know if they're the father or not. They will just assume because they have mated with that female. They will understand that they have mated with her, and mating leads to the cubs. But actually, it could be any one of the 3. Now, there's studies done. Can a male lion identify that it's their own cub through scent, through chemical cues? But it's never been confirmed. Other than DNA, you will never know. But there is a study that did use DNA, and it suggests that that first male on the onset of estrus, when she's fully in estrus, not the start, the full sort of swing of estrus, that first male that does the mating is the one that's normally the father. And the next male and the next male.
Nosing the sand.
They don't actually know. It's an assumption. And that's exactly why the females do it. They mate with as many males as they can in order to confuse paternity and trick all the males. And that was fascinating. I think what I'm going to do is just drive along the drainage, see if I can see any signs of a carcass, and then, of course, we'll come back to our beautiful Talamatis.
So, you've just popped back to Twalu, and we have a very cooperative male wildebeest. I think it's twofold. I think it's because it's already 24 degrees, which is about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. It's forecast to get to 34 degrees, and he's already decided, well, this is my shady spot for the day. So yesterday we had some rains, and what they like to go do after that is go and rub their face in the sand, dig it up with their hooves, kneel down and rub their face, and you can actually see when he decides to turn towards us again. But look at how he's got bright little red knees, and if Dave's going in very close there, you can actually see almost like calluses on the knees where he's been bending down to rub his face in, and even the blunt part of his nose on the front is also covered in a nice little red shine. You see, a nice wildebeest bull. Two things that tell us that immediately is the fact that he's on his own, so he's a solitary territorial bull. And then if you're wanting to sex wildebeest at a long distance, because both male and female have horns, you actually look at their ears relative to their horn position. So if their ears fall well within their horns, no, now you're not being a cooperative wildebeest. Can you just face forward again? No, he says no. So if it's a bull, his horns are wider than his ears stick out. If it's a female, her horn, where they curve upwards, tend to be within the ears. He's like, well, now I'm going to graze in the shade. I was talking to him earlier. I was trying to have an agreement with him that he was going to show us how he scent marks on the tree using that preorbital gland. Yeah, he's decided, no, I'm going to do something different, which is graze. You can see he's grazing there in just a little shady patch under a camel thorn tree. It's a nice illustration. The cicadas are humming again, so we're definitely in for a toasty one today. He's listening to us, though. He's just shaking off the louse flies. They're like a biting fly. They're not the most pleasant for animals as well as for humans. And sometimes when you feel like you've been bitten, it's already too late and it gets to a nice little red welt. He just looks like he's standing snoozing. So I don't think he's going to move too much. If he's got enough grass around him, then he'll just graze in that shadowy patch. And when time comes for him to take a nap, he'll just lie down there. He's got a relatively good area of visibility around him, so he will feel safe lying down for the middle of the day or the heat of the day. And then he'll think about moving late afternoon when it gets a little bit cooler. I must say, Darby, the front half of him was much better than the back half of him. He's clearly decided not to want to be on TV anymore. So there you can see a nice illustration of the ears and the horns, but it's the wrong angle. So, yeah, come. No, and come. Oh. He can hear me, there we go. So it's the fact that his horns are supposed to be longer than his ears, or wider out than his ears, but it's just the angle that he's facing away from us. And the sort of brindled pattern on the shoulders, the nice brindled gnu, so the darker stripes on the body. So weighing in close on 250 kilograms, which is quite a reasonable size. Let's go down and have a look. That's a really nice illustration of the brindle there. I just want to see. You can actually, maybe Darby would go down to his feet, because you can actually see what's called dew claws. Because he's facing away from us, especially on the two front ones, you can see it's almost like they call them false hooves. And if a wildebeest has been running or in mud, you will see that present in the track. But when they're walking just normally, and you're tracking wildebeest, you don't see that, but only if they're going into heavy mud or really thick sand, then do you see those two false hooves on the back of the foot that will make an impression in the sand. For animals out here, he hasn't chosen the biggest camel thorn to stay under, but they can have up to 20 degrees less in the shade of a camel thorn tree. So we're going to move on from here and leave him in his nice shady spot.
Welcome to and beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve once again, where, as I was saying, Glenn and I are on the search, moving between the waterholes here in the plains, and look at the two white rhinos that we found, busy moving off into the thickets, busy grazing as they go. Unfortunately, just got a view of their rear ends as they head on down along that little game trail. Two white rhinos. See how they've got their heads down to the ground, busy grazing. And that kind of characteristic, look at that very characteristic kind of stance of the neck coming down towards the ground, that pretty shallow saddle across the back, all features that we can use to tell even from a distance that they are white rhinos. Haven't been able to have a close enough look to figure out what the dynamics are here. If it's, they both look like they're pretty similar size. Okay, the one on the left is a bull, just looking between his back legs. And the one on the right, I can't quite see, but it seems like it's a pretty similar size, so it might also be a bull. Which is, I suppose, relatively unusual to see two big males together. Although we have been seeing every now and then in this particular part of the reserve two big males that have been seen often in each other's company. With these white rhinos being territorial, two big bulls would not normally tolerate each other so close together. But as long as the one doesn't behave territorially in the other's territory, there shouldn't be a problem. Very busily feeding. Comes back to what we were saying earlier about those wildebeest, with them being ruminants, and how, because of the way that their digestion works, taking in food and then chewing it again a little bit later, and how that would afford them time to rest. These rhinos, just like the zebra, are not ruminants, so they're going to have to spend more time proportionally feeding today than something like a buffalo or a wildebeest, assuming that all the vegetation is of the same forage quality. And with those massive bulks of theirs, they're going to have to spend the better part of today eating. And with it being so cool today, that's definitely going to work to these rhinos' favor. There's not going to be that risk of overheating, and of course that discomfort of having to walk around in the sweltering midday heat. And they'll be able to keep on grazing through the plains for the whole day. Mary, you're asking a very interesting question. You're asking what rhinos will do when they sense trouble. Well, Mary, like most animals, they'll normally first stand still to allow their senses, or to give their senses the best possible chance of analyzing the threat. So they'll often, like with these white rhinos, what they'll typically do is when they become aware of a threat, they'll kind of stand kind of very stiff, like with their legs kind of locked out, and they'll lift their heads and they'll kind of turn their head from side to side, trying to get or give their nostrils the best chance of smelling whatever the potential threat is. And they'll also maybe swivel their ears, listening in the direction of the potential threat. If it's close enough, they'll try and see it as well. And they'll then stand with their ears, if they're then able to determine where the threat is, they'll stand with their ears kind of pricked, and they'll be trying to smell it the whole time, trying to use their two best senses, their hearing and their sense of smell, to analyze the potential threat. And then from there, that will then determine how they react. So something like an elephant, they'll normally just then move away from it. If the elephant keeps pressing forward towards them, especially a mother with a small calf, she might try and hold her ground to defend her little one, because she'll know that the little one might not be able to move away fast enough to get away from the elephant. In the case of a predator like a lion, these rhinos are so big they normally don't have anything to worry about from lions, even from a relatively good sized pride of lions, and they'll normally just ignore the lions. But if they do feel threatened by them, they'll either, once they've obviously used all their senses to analyze the threat, they'll either run, or more likely in the case of a lion, they'll come towards it. And they don't normally have to behave too aggressively towards a lion to convince the lion to move away. They're so big and powerful that the predators normally give way. I suppose towards us, it's interesting for us to know how a rhino will behave towards us as humans. For example, if we're walking out in the bush and we're near to rhinos and they become aware of us, that they'll do the exact same thing I was saying earlier. They'll stop and stand and try and smell or hear where we are, and more than likely move away from us. In an unusual circumstance, though, where they do feel that running away is not an option, then they'll put their heads down and come charging towards the threat. Let's hope that doesn't happen. And obviously, when we are walking out in the bush, our objective is always to be neutral in our environment, to try and be as neutral as possible, and that means not getting detected by the rhino. So to walk often slowly if we're going through thicker areas, give ourselves the best possible chance of detecting the rhino before it detects us. And if we do see a rhino or do become aware of a rhino, try to make sure that we don't get heard by it, don't get seen by it, don't get smelled by it. So stay downwind of it, be as quiet as possible, and use all available cover to our advantage. But it looks like those rhinos have moved off up the hillside there. Now, while we've been sitting here, off in the distance, and I'm going to see if we can try and film it, another game drive vehicle with guests has managed to find that same lioness and her two cubs from last night. And they're just down the hill right there. This is literally where we were on our way to go and search. Remember I said earlier there's another waterhole nearby. We were going to go and try and have a look around there to see if there was any sign of the rest of the pride. And that's exactly where this lioness is. So I don't know if you can see her there in that grey-green grass. And that's Mum, and she's heading kind of to the northwest, or her movement was along this drainage line, this ravine, heading up towards that waterhole, where, just like that other waterhole we were at earlier, there's no doubt going to be lots of herbivorous animals that are coming down to drink, things like warthogs and wildebeest. Those are all animals that she'll be looking to try and hunt. I had a look at her through my binoculars. Her tummy still looks pretty empty, so she'll be needing to get some food. So our next move is going to be to head down there to go see if we can't get a better view of her and of her little cubs. The cubs seem to be quite active. They're moving around quite a lot, quite playful. Looks like they're investigating a little bush quite close to the other vehicle there. Mum's watching them. So I think without further ado, let's head down there, see if we can't get a better look at those little lions. Oh, and the sun's coming out now just a little bit. I guess it's been really chilly this morning. The sun providing a bit of comfort. And hopefully once we get down to that lioness, hopefully before it gets, it looks like the sun's burning through the clouds behind us, so hopefully she finishes her move all the way to that waterhole before it becomes too hot and she decides to go and rest for the day. But while we go and try and get a better look at this lioness, let's go back across to Deirdre at Tswalu. Apparently she's found some antelope to show you.
We're trying to sneak carefully, not to chase it. Not to chase that bat-eared fox away. That just ran out the picture. There he is. He just lay down under the tree there. You just see his silhouette. Got him. So we were trying to sneak up on the bat-eared fox. Oh. So that was and is a bat-eared fox. Yeah, it was. No, it's gone. So we might as well come back to the springbuck. We were trying to do a double whammy of show you some springbuck and then show you the sleeping bat-eared fox. It's quite quickly that his cover had been blown, so he dashed off. But nice view of some springbuck there. And butterflies in the beautiful sort of devil's thorn yellow areas. So I'm just having a look. That looks like all four of those in the picture there are, or the four, thanks Darby, are females. Very long, thin horns. Oh, there's 5 of them. I'm having a bad counting morning. So quite a lot of the females looking quite pregnant. They should be dropping lambs. Some have already started, but most of them should be dropping lambs anytime soon. And what they'll do is they'll hide their lambs against the base of a tree or in a little bit of a grassy area. And the lamb is completely brown, very, very well camouflaged against the sand. And it will just remain stationary until the mother calls it or goes to feed it. So, again, a springbuck, funny enough, got a very thin tail. We just seen that wildebeest with a very, very thick, hairy tail helping him with the flies, but the springbuck actually have a relatively thin, almost hardly any hair. That sort of, yeah, there you've got a nice view there. So Sandra is asking what's the difference between a springbuck and an impala, and that's a good question. The springbuck is part of the gazelle family. Longer legs, both male and female of the gazelle family have horns, whereas an impala is larger than a springbuck and only the males have horns and the females without. And then the impala, we have them here at Tswalu, so I'll see if I can find you one, but I'm sure one of our other companions can show you an impala and show you the fetlock gland. So on the base of the foot of an impala, the back foot, is a fetlock gland, which is unique to impala. They're actually in a group of their own. They are the only antelope in their family, the impala, whereas the springbuck share space with the gazelles, and our regular viewers would have seen the Thompson's gazelle up in East Africa. Distribution-wise, there's very few areas where both species, springbuck and impala, overlap, but Tualu is one of those places, and as soon as you go away from the drier areas, more towards the wetter areas, towards the Kruger National Park and Djuma, then it becomes exclusively Impala. So they're also mixed feeders, and when we call them mixed feeders, it means they graze as well as browse. But what they prefer will depend on the season, the time of the year. So at the moment, there's a lot more grass cover, which is first preference. And then as the grass dies back and we go into winter, they will then start browsing on the bushes and the trees. If there's also nice, new, fresh green leaves on some of the acacia trees, they'll start nibbling on those. Or you can see the fifth one, you can see from the back view, you can actually see she's quite pregnant because her belly is quite large. When she walks away from us and she faces away from us, you can actually see how round her belly is. So anytime soon, we're going to be fortunate enough to be able to show you some baby springbuck. So you can actually see the nice shapes on the horns. So just as these springbuck are nice and relaxed, we're going to send you over to Lauren that's got some relaxed lions.
Very relaxed lions, Deirdre. Although heads are up, something's piquing their attention. The hyenas are still running around. We drove along the drainage, but we were not able to see exactly what's going on. So I think there's a carcass down there. Apparently an adult wildebeest and a calf ran in there last night. That's exactly why I'm thinking that maybe the Talamatis here have had both, which is very sad to think about. But the hyenas are running around because there's still food. Showing absolutely no fear of the lions, really. I mean, well, look at that lion that's just rolled onto her back. That belly could not be any bigger. I think there's a termite mound in there. But the hyenas show absolutely no fear. And Michael, very, very kindly sent me some screenshots, thank you. And the hyenas that are running around are not believed to be part of the Djuma clan, that we know of. And why I say that is because I wonder if there's a lot of dynamics in the sort of hyena clans around here that we just don't know about yet. We're just not fully familiar. There's a lot of immigrant males. But I just wonder if maybe the Djuma clan's slightly bigger with regards to males than we realise. With regards to females, it's slightly different. But we don't recognise these individuals that are running around near the dam camp anyway. So where they're coming from and where they belong, we don't know. But I haven't seen any aerial scavengers. I don't see any vultures or anything up in the sky hoping to swoop down. Someone's getting up. Gonna walk right in front of the car. You know, I say this every time, but with the amount of time that we spend with leopards out here, when you see a lioness standing up, especially next to the vehicle, it's remarkable how much larger they really are than even a male leopard. Okay, so we're going to sit tight here. I think the Talamatis are going to move soon, and we're going to send you across to some great grey mammals. Sorry about that. You're back with us. We were actually just having a discussion. Did you hear it again, Joanne? Just once. We thought we could hear some impala snorting. It can't be the lions if they're tucked away here. It could be at the hyenas, so I've watched multiple times where we see impala snorting at hyenas. Look at this lioness. Now the lion movements has been really interesting of late. The Talamatis are definitely going further down south. Now territory is not fixed. It's not static. It's not a box like our human brain wants to sometimes think it is. Constantly moving, constantly changing, constantly adapting. Look at that big paw. Yeah. So much power in that paw. So it's very, very fluid. So lion prides, leopards, they all will move constantly. Their territories are not going to stay the same. The core area will most likely stay the same. A territory is not sort of even throughout. You get the core area, then you get the secondary areas, then you get the tertiary areas. And normally the core area is defined by a really stable water point in winter. So, for example, Tingana, his territory was very, very much in the area that we're in now, and the core point was around Galago Pan. Now, of course, we believe that Tingana's gone a little bit more nomadic now, but a territory is not even throughout. There's different areas for different things. And for the Talamati pride here, they've been seen as far down south as Annette's, which is further south than Chitwa. Now, for those of you that don't know the area here, that's okay. They just always sort of stayed up north. For the 2 years that I was here, we never got to spend time with the Talamati pride, once in a blue moon. But now that we can traverse Buffelshoek, of course, Sod's Law, Murphy's Law, whatever you want to call it, the Talamatis are now here all the time. Now, they'll sort of ebb and flow with the Nkuhuma pride. There was a fight, there was a clash once, long ago. But generally, they will avoid one another. They're aware of one another's presence. But the Talamatis are moving from Juma, Torchwood, Chitwa, Annette, Little Gowrie, and that's very, very unusual for at least the time that I've been here for the Talamati pride. You've got the Nkuhumas, you've got the Torchwood pride to think about. I promise you this lioness is alive. Someone else is up. One of the sub-adult females. She's going to become a polecat. See, there you go. There's a polecat. Bet you've never seen that before. Okay, once again, we are going to sit here and hopefully our Talamati pride will do more than just a snooze.
We have just found this herd of elephants, and we didn't even notice this youngster. It was in the dense bushes behind, and it just popped its head around the corner, and we're getting such good views of it. It looks like it's trying to feed, but watch what it's doing. Instead of using its trunk like a normal elephant would, it looks like it's getting its whole head into the bushes, and it might be trying to feed off the leaves directly from the branches. And just look, I mean, it is able. I thought it might not be able to use its trunk as well as its mother might be able to, but it's doing an okay job. There was a second there where it looked like it was literally biting off of the branches, but it seems like it's starting to get the hang of the trunk. These elephants being so large must really be enjoying this weather after that almost week of incredibly hot conditions. And so they are utilizing this nice breeze, and they're just probably going to be feeding throughout the majority of the day today. And so this elephant here on the side looks like it might be one of the young bulls of the herd. And you see, so that youngster we saw feeding directly off the tree, this one's focusing a lot more on the ground, and it looks like he was feeding on grass, but there is a small little shrub that he's focusing on now. Watch the foot. Quick little kick to try and break it. So it looks like it's a Vachelia or an old acacia that he's just put into his mouth. And they must almost feel so relieved to have this green grass around them after spending the whole winter basically feeding on very tough bark. I'm sure it's quite a welcome relief on their teeth to eat this nice succulent, juicy grass that we're experiencing this summer. And if you watch this one, I mean, compared to that young elephant that we saw now, he's so much more skillful with his trunk, and he's basically doing exactly what it wants it to do. And so that youngster's still got a lot of time to grow into and get those muscles used to, or get used to those muscles to be able to feed as effectively as this young elephant bull will. And every now and again, he takes a chunk and watch. He'll feed, and then there'll be something that drops out of his jaw. There we go. And so that's the root system of the grass. And within that root system is lots of granules of sand and dirt that just basically wears down the teeth unnecessarily. So for him to be able to select exactly what he wants is, again, a very, very skillful thing that he's taken years to get to learn. Benjamin, that's a very good question. You're asking how we can tell how old an elephant is. And we might as well use this one because he's in frame and we get to see him well. So firstly, those tusks aren't the most accurate way to age them because it is quite genetically variable. It is, however, sometimes useful. You know, the bigger the tusks, they tend to be a bit older. But if we can zoom out a little bit, Bika, and get that elephant on the left-hand side, there we go. So that is a fully grown adult female. And we know that because she's got that youngster next to her, so she's in her prime. And it's helpful because we know that she's an adult. We know that she's not going to get too much bigger than that. So to use her as a reference and look at how tall this young elephant is in comparison to the female is often quite a good way to do it. And so that youngster very, very close next to it, I think it's the same one that we saw. I mean, she's just above the stomach line of the mother without any tusks growing. And so it is under 2 years old. The bull that we had in front of the vehicle a bit earlier on is just below the spine. And so it's in its teenage years. And I'm very hesitant to put an exact number on it, but if I were to guess, it might be maybe 12 to 15 years old, somewhere around there, maybe slightly younger. Another useful thing, especially when this bull gets older and older, what will happen is his head gets much, much, much bigger. And as they get older, they've got those temporal glands that are just directly above his eye. And as they get older, those glands get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So you really start to see a clear indentations as these older elephant bulls get much older. And so this bull, and just looking at the way that he's positioned, kind of on the outskirts of the herd, he probably isn't really tolerated around the much smaller elephants, especially from the cows. They'll be very protective, and if he comes in and he's too boisterous, he's going to get chased away. And as a result, he's now on the fringes of the herd. So he'll essentially within the next couple of years, he won't be tolerated anymore, and he'll be pushed away by his mother and his aunties. And just eventually he leaves, and he starts his life as an adult elephant. And most of the time he goes off by himself, but he will try and find himself another couple of bulls who might be a similar age to him. Sometimes what he would like to do is find a much older elephant bull that he latches onto, and they'll follow that older elephant bull around and learn quite a lot from that older elephant bull. Learn the layout of the land in the area that they're in, where to find water, best places to feed. And it will only be another probably 20 years or so until he's at that size and that age where he might feel confident enough and big enough to start challenging the big elephant bulls to mate. And so eventually, when he gets big, old, strong, he'll find his way back into the herd just to look for females. The Cassie elephants, because they are so protective over the youngsters, they react quickly to a lot of different things. They're not necessarily afraid of very many things. They'll definitely keep a very close eye on predators. So, I mean, I've seen them react quite aggressively to things like lions, leopards, hyenas, even to wild dogs before. But if they were to flush something out and they weren't quite sure what it was, so say, for example, they were in the bushes and a grey duiker bolted from underneath their feet, and that would give them a fright, and they'll just go into defensive mode where they'll try and protect the youngsters as best as they can. So that, I guess, is pretty much the larger predators will be the things that they'll watch most closely. But because they're so big, they don't really feel too threatened by them. And so their best line of defense is sometimes attack. And so if they can, they'll try and chase the threat away from them rather than them running away from the potential threat. It's quite a sight to behold because, I mean, a big 4.5-5-ton elephant running around, trumpeting and screeching makes a huge racket. And normally it's the lions that turn around and run away first. And I don't blame them. It is a very intimidating sound and sight watching an elephant react so aggressively towards something. But I mean, 99% of the time this is exactly what they do. They're very docile, they're peaceful, they like to just move slowly through an area, feed, eventually get to a water hole to drink sometime throughout the day. So we don't often see that defensive behavior unless they feel like they really, really need to protect their herd. We are going to hang around just to get this elephant bull to move off the road slightly. Once he moves off, I think we might continue on with our morning. And in the meantime, Lauren has got some sleepy lions, so we'll see if they're up to anything.
Well, it looks like our lioness has found an extremely comfortable spot nestled in between the trees. But I've just noticed, Johan, the injury on the lioness that I noticed the last time I was here. We had the Talamatis up in Buffelshoek. Now, oh, there we go, perfect views. It's on her back right. You see that? It's exactly the same lioness. Excuse the X-rated views. She's obviously very full. Look at that. That's quite a gash. It was thought to originally be teeth marks, but I think that was wrong. I can't honestly say what caused this, but it was seen around the time that they took down the giraffe calf. But that's quite a gash, and it's obviously on her knee joint, if you like, which is a very flexible part of one's body, and they need to bend it to walk. So I'm not sure it's going to heal very well, but she's fine. I've not seen her mobile yet. But it is quite a deep injury. And lions don't quite have the immune system that hyenas do. There's a very powerful immune system. Again, very low sort of pH of the stomach acid, which means it's very, very acidic. And it can blast away all sorts of pathogens and bacteria that come into the stomach. And that's because they eat carrion, they eat dead animals. Now, if we were to feast on whatever they're feasting on, it's not rather pleasant to think about, we would not be able to blast away all the bacteria that comes in. Our digestive system, capacity of us would not be able to handle it. But a hyena's stomach acid is much lower on the pH scale. It's far more acidic. I think it's pH 1 than a lion's. And that's why you rarely see hyenas affected by rabies or anything like that. They're very robust. We were actually discussing that last night. But lion's stomach acid is still very, very strong. And they normally do heal from quite extensive injuries. It may scar and it may not heal very well, but it'll still heal. And believe it or not, they say that the Kruger lions in the sort of Kruger National Park and the greater Kruger, possibly I would imagine that would include the Sabi Sands as well, up to 80% of all lions carry TB, tuberculosis, and it's called BTB because it comes from the bovids. And it's a very slow progressing disease. From the actual time of infection to death can be anywhere between 2 to 5 years. But the majority of the lions appear healthy, and it's said that they're actually just carriers of it. And that's up to 80% of lions carry BTB in the Kruger. Okay, so our lions are very, very flat right now. So no, we're not sending you anywhere. I changed my mind. And of course, the BTB comes from eating buffalo. It's transmitted from buffalo. And when lions eat infected buffalo, that's when they will, of course, get the BTB themselves. And I'm sure it was around 40% of the buffaloes tested in the Kruger were positive. I can't quite remember the year, though. But anyway, it's very prevalent in these parts. Okay, so now we are going to send you somewhere. I'm not quite sure where, but I am going to sit here and enjoy my lions.
So I'm going to say, wait for it, wait for it. There she is. And there she goes. So she's just moved a little bit higher up. That is, and right at the top of the tree there. So that is Mummy Cape Glossy Starling. She's had in that nest down at the bottom, sort of Wednesday last week, she had 3 eggs. On Friday, the first little chick hatched. By Friday afternoon, the second chick had hatched. And the third egg was still there. By Sunday morning, the third egg hadn't hatched. And then I had a quick look in the hole this morning. It's such a convenient hole for us because there's a slit down the side. You just have a peep in the hole, you can see what's happening. So there's 2 chicks. The egg is gone, and the 2 chicks already, so they were hatched on Friday, so Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we're on Wednesday. Literally in 5 days, they're little fat plump chicks. Their feathers are in a sheath with just the end opening. So as that sheath then gets exposed, so their feathers will come out and hold them, keep them nice and warm. So she doesn't sit for very long. It's only about a 15-day incubation period, which is actually quite quick. And then she will feed them sort of another 15, 20 days, and then they'll be fledged and ready to start feeding outside the nest. she's been bringing them insects. So just before you cut to us, she actually had a mouth full of insects, and she hesitates around the nest. She waits until she's seen if there are any predators. She's just flown off now, so she's going to go and gather some more insects to feed these two little hungry mouths. But once it's a tiny little blue egg, a really pretty little blue egg, and once the chicks have hatched, they classified as ultricial, so they require parental care before they're able to feed themselves, move, protect themselves, have enough sort of a downy covering. And those chicks tend to have a shorter incubation in the egg, whereas we were showing you the ostrich egg the other day, or any of the ground nesting birds, they emerge what's called precocial. They already have a down covering, and from day one, they're capable of actually looking after themselves. So mum will show them what their food is, but they can feed themselves. So that's the big difference. And the precocial chicks, because it requires a longer developmental stage in the egg, their incubation period is much longer, so that they're at phase 2, whereas these little naked, helpless, blind chicks are still sort of at phase 1 when their egg hatches for the first time. So we'll monitor, it's right here close to where the lapwing is, so we'll monitor both nests and keep you updated, but unfortunately the hole's too small for Darby to get his camera in that hole. So JP's question is, what is my favorite bird? Wow. In Southern Africa there's about 950 to choose from. I think with regards to colours, you have to look in the category of the kingfishers. I think the malachite kingfisher is probably one of my favourites. Let me just show everyone that hasn't seen one before. Just got to open the book. But the malachite kingfisher literally just has a splash of colour. Another beautifully colourful bird is the lilac-breasted roller. But I'll show you the malachite kingfisher now. Page 50. I'm going to hold it up there for you, and then just the top right corner here is the malachite kingfisher. So we don't see too many kingfishers this side. I heard Trishala was talking about the woodland kingfisher. I just remember when I was in the Lowveld, and that was like the rangers used to have bets as to when that kingfisher would arrive, because they're migrants, and year after year, it tended to be the 15th of November. So we'll see what happens next year. So they've technically been around for almost a month. But beautiful set of birds. Maybe, there's another one. Just page through the book. The carmine bee-eaters. They're beautiful with that sort of pink colour. Some of the shows are able to show you the European bee-eater. Let me see if it's the page forward or the page back. Turn it around. So at Tswalu, we get the swallow-tailed bee-eater, the one in the middle of the page there. So hopefully at some point we'll be able to put that on there with the beautiful blue sort of throat patch. But just nice in colour. I never understood why they called the white-fronted bee-eater this one, because it's got a bright red crimson throat. But we're going to send you across to Eric, that's got a nice herd of buffalo.
We've been pleasantly surprised by this herd of buffalo. We just crossed the river, and as we came up onto the top of the bank, we got greeted by this large herd of buffalo. And there's a few of them that are still just watching us and seeing what we're up to. But the majority of them now, and that one there, you see its ears are pointed forward, nose straight towards us, so it's just watching us, slightly unsure of what we're about. But if you look at a lot of the buffalo around, like that one coming into frame on the left, now her, they've all got their heads down and they're grazing, so we're not posing too much of a threat to them, so they're not feeling too worried about us. But what I find quite interesting, especially for a buffalo herd that's on the move and grazing, is how tightly compacted they are as a group. They're all in this one big bunch. And whereas typically if they are feeding they tend to spread out a lot, and they all move in the same direction, but they tend to spread out much more than they are now, which might suggest that they could be looking for a place to rest up quite shortly. And what's really cool is, as Biga's just pointed out, there's a giraffe all the way in the background there. So we've got buffalo and giraffe all in one shot. If you look at the grass all around and the tree in the foreground, I mean, it is starting to get very, very windy. And so these buffaloes, they pretty much, they've got very good senses all around, but they do rely quite heavily on their sense of hearing and their smell. And so with all of this windy conditions, it's just a lot safer for them to try and stick into a very close-knit group like we're seeing now. So what I think these buffaloes might end up doing is heading down towards the water. And Damon at Pinders has got animals that are already at a waterhole.
So it's taken us a while, but we've finally managed to catch up with this lioness and her 2 cubs, and not a moment too soon. They've come down to that little waterhole that I was speaking about earlier, the only other water in this part of the reserve, and they've started to drink. And in the bit of time that we've been spending with them, it's been amazing to see. They've been remarking on how these 2 little cubs, even though they're so small compared to Mum, they're already so full of confidence and so independent. They've been running off from Mum, doing their own thing, exploring. It's been giving Mum a bit of anxiety. There was one stage where she kind of realized that she couldn't see her cubs, didn't know where they were, and she started calling frantically for them. And they heard her and came running. And when they started to approach this waterhole, it was no different. The cubs obviously have been here before and they know that there's water here, so they came running over to the waterhole, leaving Mum behind. Obviously very eager to come and get a drink. You see the lioness lifting her head every now and then, looking around, making sure that she's knows what's going on around her, making sure there's no potential prey that she needs to keep an eye on. Just gonna have a look through my binoculars quickly. Earlier I'd said that her tummy looked like it was still pretty empty, but now I don't know if it's just the way that... No, it is still empty. It's just the way that she was lying, crouching down. It looked like her tummy had a bit of food in it, but no, that's not the case. She looks pretty empty-bellied. And even now... Ooh, look at her now. How she's heading up that game trail. See, there's that pathway there, that worn bit of earth. I can see a warthog. Oh, I can see a warthog. See how as she goes up over the hill, how she kind of flattens her ears out to make herself as inconspicuous as possible as she breaks the horizon. Of course, she knows that there may well be something on the other side. Oh, there's a warthog, everybody. I don't know if it's seen her. I think it has, because it's looking straight towards her. But it's still coming... Oh, no, girlie. She's turning her back on it. Well, now she's lying down and looking towards it. I don't know how she's going to expect, though, to remain concealed there. She's lying way out in the open. And in that bright sunshine, she sticks out like a sore thumb. Very easy to see So anything that is wanting to come down to drink is going to see her from a long way away. But that warthog is still hanging around. It's a bit tough to see for now, everybody. I don't know if I'll be able to show it to you. I'm looking at it through my binoculars. Okay, no, it's definitely seen her now. It just ran away with its tail in the air. See, that lioness only drank also for a very short time before she moved up that hill to go and scan. And from that hill, it's obviously offering her a fantastic vantage point. From here, I think we're about the same level as her, kind of eye level with her for the moment. So what the vantage point that we have from here is probably pretty similar to what she's got where she is. And I can see from here an enormous herd of zebra to our south, basically in the direction that she's looking. Once again though, like those lions we saw earlier, even though she's in a really good position, she's not very well concealed where she is. My apologies for the cell phone ringing there, everyone. We just lost our call with final control. That was just the phone ringing again to get us back connected with them. It looks like the little cubs are now coming to join mum. They've drank their fill. And there's the little female cub going up to join her mum. Now, her brother's going to follow her shortly and have a look at how there's already a marked size difference, even at this young age, between the male and the female, the two cubs. The little male already quite a bit stockier than his sister. Harvey, who's 9 years old, you're asking a very, very, very cool question. You're asking how lions roar. Well, Harvey, they roar just like we, I suppose, just how we roar. We use our voice box to roar, and lions have got a very special voice box with almost like a little bone like structure on the front of it that's connected to the voice box by with a little elastic. And so when she's stalking, she's seen something, everybody. Harvey, so when the lion roars, the air passing through the voice box, when the air passes through the voice box, that little bone vibrates against the voice box, and it allows them to produce that big roar. She's seen something. She's trotting. Okay, we can't move, unfortunately, everybody, because if we do, we might disrupt the hunt. But she's going very quickly. She's obviously spotted something that's coming across. Oh, my word, what have you seen? I can't see what she's seen. But she's covering the ground very quickly. She's now slowed down. She's stalking. We're going to have to listen for the sound. If she's successful, we'll hear the sound. Glenn says he can see two warthogs. Glenn's got a better vantage point than me. She's now gone behind a bush. We're just going to have to listen out for the sounds. Like if she's successful, we'll hear the warthog squealing. But she was very sure of herself. She didn't even... She was keeping low, but she covered that ground at a serious pace. I can't see her at all anymore, everybody. But like I said, we can't really move from here for the time being. The movement of our vehicle, the sound of our engine might disrupt the balance of the hunt, might give the warthog or the lion an unfair advantage, and we don't want to do that. So we're just going to sit tight and see what happens. The cubs are still, I'm watching the cubs are still looking pretty relaxed. They're still sitting there. Sure, but amazing how that situation changed from lions lying and looking all relaxed to suddenly her body posture just tensed up and she just started to stalk. But that's exactly why that lioness, we've spoken about it now last night and again this morning, about how lions will know that animals have to come to drink at the water here. We saw that warthog coming down to try and drink, spotting the lioness and moving away. It was only a matter of time before something came to try and drink and didn't notice her. And that's exactly what you would have been hoping for. Okay. Right, well, we can't see her for the time being, so Glenn's just going to pan the camera. Oh, the cubs are running. The cubs are running. Now, but they don't look like they're not running with intent. If they had heard a warthog squealing or heard mom calling, they'd be trotting at a good pace and they'd keep moving until they got to mom. But I can see them just through the thorns of this tree here in front of us. They've stopped. So I think they've jumped the gun. Something that, there goes a warthog on the other side there. Just seen a warthog running across the embankment on the other side of the ravine there. No sign of that lioness though. But I think we're still gonna just keep patient for a bit, everybody. We're gonna wait it out a bit longer. Because even though it's been a while since we last saw her, it could be that she's still stalking that warthog. It could be that she's making very, very, very slow movements. She's maybe very close to that warthog, just out of range though, and trying to get just a little bit closer to where she feels she'll be able to be.
Warthog right there, just behind the tree, so she must be pretty close to it.
Glenn says he can see a warthog, and we're presuming that that's the warthog that she's watching. Okay, Williams, you're asking a very, very important question. You're asking if the wind is in the lion's favor or the warthog's favor. Okay, Williamson, it's definitely in the lion's favor. It's blowing from the warthog towards her. It's blowing from over the bonnet of the vehicle, over the hood of the vehicle towards us. I apologize if I'm talking a bit loud, everybody. Sorry, the wind is blowing very hard. I can hardly hear myself think. It's blowing so hard. But I can assure you that those lions are not listening to me and the warthog is not listening to me. But like I said, we're just going to be patient because Glenn says the warthog's moving. I can't see it from where I am. But that lioness might be right there. Those cubs have jumped the gun, everybody. Let's hope that they don't ruin this for mom. Okay, now I can see the warthog. There's two warthogs there. And they're trotting, but they're not moving like they've been spooked. They're not stopping and looking back and stopping and looking back. They're kind of just moving along. I wonder if there's not... So there's a... I don't know if you can see from here, but there's a ravine between us and those warthogs. And that ravine would offer the most perfect cover for this lioness trying to stalk the warthog. So I wonder if she's not down in there somewhere, trying to stalk. I can't see her though, and those warthogs have moved quite far, and I'm sure by now, there go the cubs. The cubs are moving in the direction of the warthogs. Where is that lioness? She must be in that ravine. That's where the cubs are going. The cubs are going down into the dip. Maybe the lioness is using the cover of that ravine to kind of sneak up, maybe to try and anticipate the movement of the warthogs, to try and loop around in front of them. I'm going to get my binoculars out, everyone, and I'm just going to scan down there to see if I can see anything. Maybe just make out the little black tips on the backs of her ears, or the little black tip on the end of her tail. Yo, this wind is howling. How exciting was that, everybody? So unfortunately we haven't got a view of either the lioness or the warthogs or the cubs for now. We're just going to sit again and play the patience game. because I'm sure eventually something's going to happen. We'll see either a warthog running, or like I said here, maybe a warthog squealing, or see the lioness move. There's still a warthog there. It's looking back, but I don't think it's fully aware that there is a lioness there. Sure, but there's nothing like that when she gets into that hunting mode and she starts to stalk. You can just see how tense her muscles get and how alert her body posture goes. And just imagine for her how her adrenaline must come up, because I know my adrenaline starts going when I see a lion doing that. I can only imagine what it's like for her. Yeah. The lions come up. Okay, Glenn says you can see the lions. So we're going to go back across towards them. Have they gone down into the ravine? So Glenn says he just saw one of the lions dip down. And, oh, there they go. The cub's coming across. Well, they're now in the long grass there. They've stopped in the worst possible place. It looks like it might be a woolly caper bush that's down there, a caper bush that's growing down there. Very big, dense, thick green bush, and the lions have stopped just on the other side of that. I can just see the pale, tawny hips of I can't tell if it's a cub or the mother, but they've stopped just there. There we go. There's Mum walking out. Yeah, it's over, everybody. Whew. We can all breathe a sigh of relief. We can decompress, let the nerves settle a bit. But she missed. She missed. I think also with the wind was so much in her favor, but just maybe not enough cover, and also just the warthog's behavior. They just cutting across that little hillside, and it was just their movement, the way that they were moving. There was just not really an opportunity for that lioness to be able to catch that, to catch any of those warthogs. Shame, but I mean, for those warthogs now, imagine they were coming down here to come and drink or to come and roll in the mud. And like I said, this is the only water for quite some time. It's taken us, since we left those lionesses, or that lioness and her youngsters earlier, it's taken us all that time to get to this other waterhole. So that's quite a journey for an animal to make if it can't drink here. For example, if there's lions here and it feels too threatened to come and drink here, and it's got to go all the way to the next water source, that's a serious journey that it's got to make just to get water. So Glenn is saying he thought he saw the cubs chasing a warthog there, but a bit tough to see from here. So yeah, shame for those warthogs. I mean, if they're going to still try and drink today. We got Glenn says he can see a warthog from where he is. And maybe those warthogs will come and try and drink here again, and maybe the lioness and her youngsters will continue to wait here in the hope that they do get another hunting opportunity here. I think the latter is very likely. The former would take some very brave warthogs, or very desperate warthogs. Oh, more warthogs coming down. Oh, those warthogs obviously didn't... Oh my word, they're the cubs. They're the cubs. Just on the other side of the ravine there. So the cubs are there on the other side there, and the warthogs are coming back. So maybe a little bit later, there will be another hunting opportunity for this lioness and for her youngsters. But what an exciting morning it's been from Ngala and Swalu and Juma and here at Ambionpinda. We've had a a super fun, super exciting morning, and we're looking forward to seeing all of you this afternoon on the Sunset Safari.